Welcome to the Ekhoing Vitality podcast with Josh and Taylor. I'm Josh, Chek practitioner, and I help you rediscover your vitality.
And I'm Taylor Blakely, your integrative nutritionist with a passion for making wellness simple, sustainable, and fun.
We've been through it all. Back pain, gut issues, the stress of starting over after big moves, and finding our way through life's curveballs.
Now we're here to share real stories, proven tools, and plenty of laughs to help you create a life full of vitality.
So if you're ready to take control of your health and thrive,
let's dive into today's episode, and don't forget, hit subscribe so you can join us every week. Well, welcome back to the Ekhoing Vitality podcast with your host Taylor and my husband Josh Blakely. And I'm just so excited to be talking to you guys about our story today. It's a reflection of 2024, how we got to where we are today, why we're doing all the things, what we've learned, why it's important for us to reflect on the year. So we feel like we just need to share that story with you guys because I feel like it will be really helpful in so many different ways. And we just hope that through our adversities that we had faced in 2024, that it's just going to help inspire you for the phase that you are in your life at this time, and hopefully implement some of the mindsets, some of the tools that we use to get to where we are. We definitely still have a lot of growth to reflect back on. And yeah, just keep moving forward as much as possible. So yeah, that's what we're going to be discussing today.
yeah, and we'll also be adding in how you can also start reflecting as we enter into the new year, or whatever time you're listening to this. So we're filming it in December, so
Yeah.
but you can do this anytime you want, really.
Yeah, it's, there's never a wrong time to reflect, truly.
Right.
But I also wanted to just say that I hope you enjoyed your Christmas. I know the new year is literally this coming week, so it's just a really great time, this phase right after Christmas, right before New Year's, just to kind of sit, reflect, maybe not a lot of action right now, but it could be just a really good time to just be. That's my first tip, because we're in that phase right now. So yeah, that's what I like doing in that phase.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so babe, where do you want to start? We have a lot to go over. So if you're watching this, here's our notebook. The whole page is full. We have kind of a timeline of all the things that we want to talk to you guys all about. And then at the end, we will provide what we've learned, the mindset that we adopted, and the action steps that we had to take to keep us going.
Yeah, I think a good place to start would be, let's all understand why reflecting is important. And we've got a few points to go over. So the first one is, remember what your wins are throughout the year. Because as we move along, 12 months is a long time, and you just start forgetting about all the great things that you accomplished. And a majority of the thoughts people have are negative in nature. So it's important to look back on the wins. Mm-hmm. That way you can celebrate yourself however you see fit. And, get excited for the new year. Like, wow, I really did that. Damn.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can kind of recalibrate into your new goals for the next year. Be like, okay, so I did this. That means realistically, maybe I can start doing this and get to this point. What doesn't matter what category it's in. It can be applied to anything: health, finances, relationships, whatever, career. So I think that's a good thing to remember, is just your wins.
Mm-hmm.
What's the next one?
Wins. Okay, I like the wins. That's really important. It's also important to remember your struggles. It's also important to remember your growth, kind of like what Josh was saying. So you never want to completely ignore your struggles because I don't think growth will happen, because you're not reflecting on that. Well, what did I learn during that storm? It's always a learning opportunity, and it might be hard for people to understand that in the moment. What am I learning during this incredibly difficult time? Mm-hmm. But I always know that that's important. Maybe I haven't always known, but there's a part of me that will reflect after, like, well, geez, that taught me that. Okay, now I understand why I went through that storm. So anyways, struggles and growth. It's important to reflect on both.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm. The growth part especially, because that's extremely rewarding when you're like, when you can say, I did that. I made that happen.
I am that guy or girl or woman or whatever you are.
Yeah.
I was also going to add, I literally just posted on Facebook, and if you guys need examples of how this stuff can be applied when we get to our story and our reflection, we're also going to talk about, like, okay, what did this teach us? And that's the question I posted, was if you're in a stressful situation and you're just like down in the dumps, which is okay. You want to also embrace your emotions during that time, but you can also ask yourself, to get out of the victim mindset, what is this situation trying to teach me? Like, how can I move forward from this, so that it doesn't happen again, hopefully.
And if it does, you'll be more equipped,
Yeah.
You'll be way more equipped, especially if you deal with the emotion piece.
Mm-hmm.
Emotions are a really big deal. Like, if you don't have a grip of your emotions, or even attempting to understand your emotions, it will be a lot harder.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, totally.
Which is just a point where I want to make, like, Josh and I do not do any drugs. We don't drink alcohol. We don't smoke weed. It's just one of those things where I'm like, I want to be so clear in who I am without any of those things. And I feel like that's very helpful.
Yeah, I think that's super helpful too.
Yeah.
Keeps the mind clear. Clarity is important. And I came up with this the other day. If you are not reflecting, you are neglecting.
We were on one of our clarity walks that we do daily. We take honey buns out for a walk just down our street. Sometimes we'll go other places, but to make sure we do it every day, it's on our street. We do it multiple times a day. But we were walking and we were just talking, reflecting, having clarity of our week and situations and whatever else. And Josh, how did it even happen? I was like, you're neglecting.
I think we were just talking about the podcast.
Yeah, like what we were going to talk about. And he was just like, if you're not reflecting, you're neglecting. And I was like, what? It was just like a moment for us.
And here's another one. If you're suppressing, you're depressing. Meaning, what is to depress something? It is to, like, push it down. Right? So you're not actually growing, you're shrinking. So reflecting allows for growth, and it allows for learning, and again, allows for more clarity moving forward.
Yeah. I think about, like, a garden analogy. Like, if you have a really compact soil, like, it's really hard to grow things in there. But if you're in there with your hands and you're moving dirt, you're like making sure that it's air, there's no stagnance, there's no mold. I think that's what it is. I don't know. But anyways, it gets really icky if the dirt's not aerated. So, like, you want to, like, what's the word?
Stir it up?
Yeah, stir it up. It's like stirring up your emotions, stirring up things to cause for more growth in other areas, and it's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
But anyways, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah. We kind of went over this one, gain clarity and adjust. Just, I guess, to briefly touch on it. And another point, reflecting back on the year, it allows you to see where you won, where you lost, where maybe was neutral. And then it allows you to adjust your tactics or strategies for the future, whether that's a week from now, 2 weeks, a year, 3 years, whatever. It allows you to see, okay, this was beneficial, this was not beneficial. And you can look at it I recommend looking at it from 2 points. One is a non-emotional side of it, and number 2, an emotional side of it. So non-emotional would be like analytical, data, logical. Take your emotions out of it, because sometimes the emotions can kind of fog up your decision, especially like Taylor and I started our own businesses this year, and if we made decisions purely based on emotions, that would not be good, I don't think, because you have to tie in both. The numbers are important. What's working? For example, we're going to talk about a networking group that we were in later on called B&I. B&I was excellent people in the group. Everyone was friendly. Everyone was very supportive of each other. But we also had to look at that from a data standpoint and be like, okay, this is zero return on investment for us. So even though the people are wonderful, from a business standpoint, it's not working. We need to get out of here and try something else.
Had to pivot. And that's our next point.
Yeah, it's not negative. It's just, I need to pivot. That's it. I need to adjust my strategy.
And the emotional piece to that, like if we were to be emotional, which, can still pop up during this more analytical thinking, is like, oh, but I really enjoyed like seeing that person every week, or, that's just the emotion driving it. Like, oh, but this is what would make me want to stay, even though it gave me zero, or gave us zero in revenue, basically.
Yeah, ROI. Return on investment.
Yeah, and so we had to really look at that. And for, I want to say, a couple months, we were like, do we renew? Maybe it'll be worth it. Maybe if we just, work out a couple deals, sign up a couple clients, maybe then will it be worth it? Yeah. And it just was not worth it for us, unfortunately, in that networking group. So we had to pivot, which is fine. And yeah, so anyways.
Yeah, that was just one example. So. Yeah.
That in itself, for the next point that we wanted to talk about, is like setting new goals. Like, okay, so that one didn't work, because one of our goals, I guess, would be like, let's network more this year.
Yeah, create connections and relationships. And
so we did that, and maybe it was just like the wrong crowd, wrong atmosphere for like the type of clients that we're trying to attract. So now we just have to reevaluate, well, who is it that we're trying to attract in our business, in both businesses, and find those people, and network with those people, and maybe it just clicks more with a different set of people. So anyways, we had to pivot there and create a new goal for that, and I guess we've implemented that already, which is wonderful.
Yeah.
And then the next point is to just improve self-awareness. Like, for me, when I talk to people, it always goes back to your intuition. Well, what feels good? What feels good to me? And intuition is just so helpful when you're growing and learning and expanding and going through the struggle. But having that self-awareness of like who you are and how you do things, and maybe how you maybe your pitfalls, and knowing where you fall, you can set yourself up in a different way so that you are not falling and you're actually growing. So anyways, that self-awareness is really important when you reflect. So
yeah, totally.
So
well, should we hop into reflecting on our year?
Yes, I think so. I think this will be a really eye-opening podcast for those of you who have maybe not even heard our story. It's not like we've talked in depth about this story by any means. I feel like what we have shared on social media that some of you may have seen is really just like the tip of the iceberg of all the things that we've gone through. And yeah, so I just feel like it needs to be said, and maybe there's some lessons in it for you, and hopefully it's inspiring, and hopefully you'll understand like why people do certain things, and yeah, just have less judgment, for others. And I'll kind of talk about that too, and at a different point, like judgment through all of this, because there's definitely judgment thrown our way and from different people, and sometimes those people are pretty close to you. So anyways, how do we want to start this? Because we have so much to tell you. So if you're in the car, just take an hour long drive, listen to the whole thing, because it might be long. Because it's an important one. It's an important story for us to tell.
Yeah, and put on your seatbelt if you haven't done that already.
Mm-hmm. And remember, Josh is always in the back seat.
I'm in the back seat.
I'm in the passenger, I'm a passenger princess or whatever.
I like to be chauffeured. Just kidding.
No, you're mostly the driver.
Yeah, I do drive a lot. But let's get into the story. So, I think we should just start with where we were at in the beginning of the year. Literally 12 months from now, December. We need to talk about December because it's an important one. Yeah.
So
if you're going to reflect, you can kind of copy our strategy here. We're starting a year from now, a year ago.
A year now ago.
Can't say
now
it.
Go again in December. Okay.
So where were you at?
Okay, so mentally, where I was at in December was very heavy. Let's just put it that way. Very heavy. I was in the middle of hiring a team for the camp season. And for that particular job, it was hire work campers, because work campers usually nail down their jobs a year to 6 months in advance, typically. And I had found that hiring in December and January was like prime time for me. And so I was in the thick of it, putting ads out there, trying to recruit people, had lots of interviews with people, just trying to nail down a team. And I had a handful of people returning back to the season, so I really didn't have to hire very many people this season because I had done so much work prior to this. Years of, like 5 years of just like personal development. I refined my hiring skills. I had a team, like half the team, my team was up to 15, and I had half of them returning, which is a big deal in the work camper world. And so I was just very proud of that, but also just very drained. I worked for a narcissist, and he made it really heavy. Like the amount of stress that he lived in his own life and with his other businesses was so extremely stressful. And I tried to make it a point that I was camp manager. I was not responsible for holding any space for this man's chaos. And that's what it had turned into. I didn't have very good boundaries in the beginning, even though I was constantly working on them. But sometimes when you are in the thick of it and you don't want to be fired, you sacrifice certain things. And some of that was listening to his story. And sometimes it was just not relevant to me. My time was abused. It was just not a great situation. And so I started managing in 2019, and it just turned into like some respect. And then it turned into, I hardly had to see him. But then in 2022, he promised me a bonus of a certain amount, and it was a good amount for returning back that season, because I took 2021 season off. And I was not planning on going back, but financially, it was a good choice. And I left because of his narcissistic ways, but I even though I only managed for two summers, I did a really great job. I was really good at it. And so, you know, in the eyes of a business owner who doesn't want to work on the business, made it very easy to say yes financially. So
the amount of things that you learned from this particular job is a list too long to go over probably. On this podcast. Do you want to maybe name just like a couple?
Okay, so hiring. That one was a really big one. I learned how to hire a really great teams. And I will say that it wasn't all roses. There were a ton of thorns in that. Like, I had to work on a skeleton crew. Like, my first year managing, I was like, well, I have to fire literally half the team. And I worked a ton. I learned that I had so much grit. I had to stand up for myself. I had old men, like over 50s, 60s, and sometimes even over 70s, get into my face, yell, tell me how I did not deserve to be in this management position because I was young. My first year I started managing, I was 25 years old. And then I was a woman. That was the other reason why I had men. It was coming from employees. And I even had this come from upset customers that were men. Women never really gave me that problem at all, but it was very interesting that these men would come at me. And I remember when one of the employees who got into my face, he was like maybe almost 70 years old. I had not hired him. It was the previous managers who had hired this team. They left right before the season opened, blah, 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 blah. So anyways, I'm working with this man, and he just so grumpy, could not make him happy whatsoever. And he just got into my face, and like it made me shake. And I just sat there and just stared at him thinking, who the F are you coming at me in this way? And I was like, you're fired. Like I didn't say much about it. I was shaking to my core, just like, because he was literally close. If you're watching this video, like maybe a foot away from my face, like pointing his finger at me. And I was the only one in the office, so he cornered me, just to rip me a new one. And I just said, you are fired. You need to get off this property right now. And he did. I went to who my assistant manager was at the time, and he was wonderful. He was a couple years younger than me, so I was like, hey, this is what happened. I'm really shook up. And he went out there and made sure that guy left immediately. So anyways, I learned in that moment how much grit and how I could stay calm, even though I was literally shivering inside. Just like, oh, this was so scary to me. Like, it was so scary, super, super scary. And that had happened consistently throughout the years that I managed. Like, there was just a lot of unhappy customers, but even the owner, like, he tried to fire me that first year, and I told him, no, you are not. And it mostly came from, again, grit, finding my power. I had fired that one guy, and I was just like, I am not letting anybody tell me that I'm not worth it. And so I was like, you are not firing me. Here's why. And I told him why, because I had a team that, again, I did not hire them, who were essentially loyal to the managers who had hired them, and that was not me. And so, I fired everybody who was not for me. And this was maybe June, like, we're already busy in the camp season, and I'm like, okay, I need to find a team now. So I was like, this is what I can do, and I was able to get a team together. Maybe a couple people short for this whole season, but it was enough to, like, still have a really phenomenal season. And so I gained a lot of respect, apparently, my first year, sticking up for myself and telling him that you can't fire me. So anyways, I learned my grit. I learned a lot of self-worth during that year. And then it just kept getting stronger throughout the years. And this whole story in itself, and I don't want to go too deep into it because there's literally so much. I mean, there's like 4 years worth of stuff to unpack there. But let's just say 2022, he owed me a bonus. I managed for 2023. At the end of the 2022, did not get the bonus. I managed for 2023, did not get that bonus again. And when I had brought it up in February 2024, I had a plan to get that bonus. And I'll talk a little bit more in a second about that. But 2024 is when I asked for that bonus, when I was going to see that. And I just thought, wow, I can't believe I have to ask, like, almost 2 years later for that bonus. So anyways, I ended up quitting, and to no one's surprise, like, it was the best decision that I could have ever done. It was wild and crazy, but it was one of the best things. And before we continue on with that, I also wanted to say that January was a month where Josh and I were both very... Actually, let me pass it off to Josh so he can talk about his December, where he was at, before we move on. Okay?
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
I
have a lot to say, but so does Josh, so I gotta give him his time.
Well, yeah, I'll keep it pretty short, I think. So yeah, my December, I was working for a marketing agency that I had been working at for like 6 or 7 years. And I was working with a couple other employees, plus the owner. And at this point, I had worked at this company for so fucking long that I was just kind of like in the rat race.
Mm-hmm.
I was going through the motions without really giving a shit. Like, I'm just doing my work as an employee, kind of burnt out and tired of working for this fucking guy and his micromanaging and emotional roller coaster of a person. And I don't want to seem too negative about it, because there were good times too. Like, he was a friend. The boss, the owner, was a friend of mine for a while, until the job just got monotonous, So,
well, and just the abusing of I don't know, there was like a line that was being crossed all the time with the emotional piece.
Yeah, the emotional piece was definitely getting a little out of hand, and just his words and
Because it affected the job.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. I mean,
because there were
everything.
decisions being made on emotion that brought you on a roller coaster in yourself.
Yeah, exactly. Which affected you and everyone else around. Because there's this saying, you don't leave your stress at the front door. Or any door.
Yeah.
It goes with you everywhere you go. And so I was, well, to be honest, I was doing that up until I got let go, which I was planning on leaving, but just a little more slowly. But it ended up, I was, well, to give a more context about it, there was like 3 other content creators I was working with doing video and social media creation for businesses. One had gotten fired, then one had quit, and then I was suddenly the last one there. And it was kind of like, I don't think this is good. And so, yeah, eventually there were not enough clients. And so the business and I had to part ways because there just wasn't enough money to pay me. So.
And for what he's worth. Like, he's got a lot of skills.
Yeah, totally. I mean, yeah, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Yeah, you learn what you're worth for sure. I think both of us learned how to use our voice a little more, how to adapt to situations and create boundaries that. And when you create boundaries in a position that is not probably meant for you in your, however you want to look at it, your divine path, the people you're creating boundaries against are not going to like it. And I think,
not one bit.
I think that's a good sign. All 3 of us at this particular marketing agency had tried to create boundaries against the owner for certain things that I thought were perfectly fair, but yeah, he did not like that.
Very reasonable.
So he didn't like it, so business fucking, kind of went downhill. I don't know where it's at now, but maybe it's better now. Who knows?
For example, there was one of the employees had just had a baby.
Right.
And not being able to take some time off.
Yeah, he didn't like that.
That first week or something. And it was literally like just a week, if I remember correctly. And it was like, nope, it was the big deal. And so I think he was either fired or he switched jobs.
He switched jobs, yeah, I'm pretty sure.
To like make sure that his boundaries were being respected. Because they weren't, So anyways, I wanted to put that out there too. So. Yeah,
but I think that's pretty much where I was at up until March, just kind of going through the motions without purpose.
Yeah. And I would say at this time, like, we both were doing we were doing good work, right? Like, I would say we were good employees. And then our time and our efforts were just being taken advantage of because we did good work. And which is where the boundaries came in. And I feel like this is what really pushed us over the edge of like, hey, like,
I think we're worth more than this.
Yeah, we're worth more than this. I feel like I deserve more respect than this, versus like these mind games that we had to play. And like, I always had to like tiptoe and literally play games like, okay, what kind of mood is he in today when we meet?
Me too,
like,
yeah.
And same with Josh. Like, we always had to like play these games of like,
what's
what
it
kind
gonna
of
be
mood?
like?
Yeah, and literally have to tiptoe around it. And so then we would have to like kiss butt and try to like lighten the mood on both parts because
financially it was a good decision.
Yeah, like we had just bought our home. We were in it for about a year. Excuse me. And we're like, okay, we now have a mortgage. We have water bill. Like, thankfully, like with one of the perks that I had with my salaried position, 1, it was salary. 2, it included housing. And so essentially it was free. And that was amazing, so I spent years in this position, not necessarily wanting to be there, but learning so much. I thank the universe, the divine, for setting me up on this path, because before I started managing, I had very low self-worth, and I had a lot of and self-love. Like, I was just low on both of those. But I also knew that I would say my self-worth was higher than my self-love at the time, and they're two different things. But I just remember that's how I used to be. And then going all these years in this position of leadership, which I had tendencies to already have, it just amplified that. Being able to be put in that position and just hold the title of literally just manager. And for me, it was a really big deal because it, like I said, amplified my leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I had no formal training, it was all natural. And I read people very well, especially in group settings like that. And so anyways, I just wanted to touch base on that. I forget where we were going. With Josh too, the tiptoeing. In this job, I feel like you were able to grow as well, like in your skills. You were given a lot of tasks because you started out as graphic design, right? Mm-hmm. And then it moved into more photography and more videography and working with people.
Over
right?
Just in general over the years, of course.
Yeah. So this is our background. This is what we had been working on before 2024. So we just wanted to lay it down, lay down the land of who we are, essentially our backgrounds, what we've been doing up until 2024. So do you want to talk about I don't know. I think I have something to say, actually.
Go for it.
Okay. So in December, I had signed up to do a 5-week online business group coaching. And it was essentially to get you in the right mindsets. Who do you need to have in your life? And create action steps to be able to set your 2024 season up right. And I was like, it was with some really amazing people, Seth and Levi, and of Ladder Real Estate. And I remember Seth had messaged me the day before because we hadn't been seeing it. And I guess both of us, we're okay with spending money on growth, whether that's events, school, out of pocket, so we're okay with that. And he told me the price, and I was like, oh shit. It was $1,500 to join this 5-week, once a week group coaching. And I was just like, oh my God. And I thought, you know what? I need that. I need that in my life really bad. I need to be around business people who are healthy, because the man that I worked for, he was not in a healthy mindset. And he lost all of his businesses, and it not a good situation. And so I'm like, I need to be around people who treat other people really good. And Seth and Levi were that. So the money part, and this is what cracks me up, because we were making good money. We were making good money in our salaried positions, working for the campground, working for the agency. And we were very comfortable. And we were saving money, and we had a savings, the Dave Ramsey savings, where you put money aside for the 6 months of income just in case you get fired or whatever. So that was really important to both of us. We needed to have that set up.
Yeah, if you don't have a savings, you should probably do that.
If you can. It is so important. Even if you put $20 a paycheck into something, it is so important to have savings, because that literally, it saved our butts this year.
Yeah.
So anyways, it just cracks me up because we were both making good money, and it was so hard to say yes to that number. Even though we had savings, even though we were still making money. And I just remember like, okay, babe, what do you think? Do you think we should do this? And so he was just like, hey, if you feel like you need it, let's do it. And so...
Like, both of us... Oh, wait. Both of us can't do it, but, you know, at least one of us can.
Yeah. And...
Well, shit, who knows? Maybe both of us could have.
Yeah, and at the time, like, so my off season at the campground was like a little bit less work, and I would work like way over 40 hours during the summertime. So I felt okay not busting my butt in the off season. So anyways, I had more time to add more things to my plate, and I felt good about that. So I'm like, I will do that. I would love it. And I remember Seth messaged me on Instagram, and he was just like, hey, do you want in? Like, we have another spot available. Literally the day before, and I think he had messaged me like maybe a week before, and I think I may have ghosted him. Like, it was bad. But he messaged me the day before, and I was like, yes, I will join. Sent over the payment link, and I paid, and I was like, here we go. And we started online group coaching all together with a few other business owners. And I felt so intimidated. I'm like, I don't really have a business right now, like these people. You know, I got really small in that moment. We had the Holistic Ape at the time, and it was always something really hard for me to like focus on a lot because of the campground. I had spent so much time and energy and effort into just maintaining that it was really hard for me mentally to take on any clients or promote it. And I would kind of do it, and I would have like maybe 1 or 2 clients at a time kind of thing. And I just remember feeling like so small in this moment because I didn't feel like a business owner at the time. And so I'm like hearing everyone's stories and everything like that. And it was just such a humbling moment for me because I'm like, wow, I need to get my crap together. I'm glad I'm here. So thankful. So thankful that I just said yes anyways, even though I felt like an imposter at the time, talking to all these other like real legit business owners, and I felt like a fraud. And I'm just so thankful that I had the opportunity that Seth reached out to me because I did feel like a fraud. So I just thought that was interesting. Do you have anything to add to that?
You met Mel, I guess.
Okay. I just didn't know if you wanted to talk more in this section here. I feel like I'm doing a lot of talking. This was a very big year for me. Very, very big year. And Josh has been there alongside me this whole time, but I had literally had to crumble to be able to get to where I'm at. Because even though I had a lot of growth with the campground and everything, and that blew up, like it was horrible. And I'll save that for another story, but it was absolutely horrible. So December, I met Mel, my absolutely most wonderful coach, Coach Mel, and she owns Mel Fits. She is a serial entrepreneur, but she has been focusing on helping people create healthy habits, lifestyle, help them lose weight. And then in December, we're sharing. So there was homework every week in this group coaching, and you'd had to send it back in to them through email. And it was all like privately. So like you just sent it to either Seth or Levi or both of them. And one of the assignments was to write down who do you need in your life to make your goals happen. And I was like, well, shoot, I need a health coach because I was going through some like health issues in my own body, even though I am a health coach as well. Like there's certain things that you can be blind to. And having accountability was really important too. And so I was just like, I need somebody who can check in with me, help me get through some of these like health things and whatnot. So that's what I put down on my form, my PDF or whatever. And then the other person was, well, I need a business coach. I need somebody to help me understand business, how to be, mindset. Like I just needed all of it because I felt, like I said, a fraud. I felt like a fraud. And so I just needed somebody to help guide me there. And so anyways, I fill it all out and it's like a page worth of like information. And I sent it in, but I sent it to the whole group. I let everybody see. So whoever wanted to read could read it. And the next call, we all hop on and Mel was like, hey, did you mean to send that to the whole group? And, you know, I'm just like, I felt so small, like in the screen. I was like, yes, yes, I did mean to send it to everybody. And she was just like, girl, you and I need to talk. Let's get on a call soon. And I was like, okay, like, okay, Mel, like she was so inspiring to me, but also intimidating because she was just like, super, super like confident. She's on her treadmill, like walking, and she's just like business. Like you can tell she was just like, she had her crap together. And I was just like, oh my God, she knows what she's doing. So anyways, she's like wanting to talk to me. And I'm just a nervous wreck. Like, holy crap, what am I getting myself into? This is scary. Because I felt like a fraud. Like I felt like my whole being was just so low at this point, probably because it was, you know, middle of the winter. I just wasn't doing what I felt I needed to be doing. I wasn't following my soul's purpose. And so anyways, we hop on a call, Mel and I, and she's just like, hey, how about you come to my house and we'll have a meeting and see if we're a good fit. And she had this new program, MelFit 365, and that was you work with her for a whole year to work on health, wealth, business, lifestyle, all of it. And I was just like, oh my God, you are who I need. And my first meeting with her, I literally broke down and like told her how defeated I was, how hurt I was, how I was not working in a place that I wanted to work, how my relationship with Josh was improving, but it was still very sad and heavy. I explained to her how financially I feel stuck in this place because it was like good money, but one of my deepest fears is to never be, what is it? My fear, and this was really hard for me because I had lost my home when I was like 16 years old, and I had to move out, and I vowed to never like ever do that. And when we bought our home, I was like, I need to make sure that I'm financially secure. So not having money and being able to provide for ourselves, it was a fear of mine. Excuse me. And so I just was like, that is basically what's keeping me stuck here. And so anyways, she was like, we need to get to work. And she was like, you are playing small. She called me out. And I don't even think I gave her money yet. I was like, oh my God, you're right. she was just like, I say this with so much love. Like, I could see it. She's like, I could see it through the screen that you had so much to give and how defeated you are and how much potential that you have. And I'm just like bawling my eyes out, like, oh my gosh. Like, she had said that I'm playing small and that I deserve everything. That I deserve to be in a position that I can take care of myself, in a position where Josh and I can take care of ourselves. And I was like, okay, you're hired. And that was such a pivotal moment for me because, again, financially, like, that felt like a really big hit to my finances, hiring her, because she's a high ticket item and she deserves every single penny of it. And so I was like, babe, I think I went home actually that day and was like, I want her to be my coach. What do you think? Is that okay? Because we talk about finances together. And he was just like, again, if you think you need it, and if you think it's worth it, and if you're going to stick with it, because in the past I've always had issues like following through with things. And I had slowly made some commitments to myself. Like, I had finished a year of health coaching and I graduated, and that was like so rewarding. So I slowly on this path of like keeping commitments to myself, following through. I completed the 5-week business online coaching, which was phenomenal. And then I just went straight into working with Mel. And that was meeting her for an hour every week for a whole year. And it has been one of the most pivotal decisions that I had ever made. And I was like, yes, I need her. Even though it was so scary and so intimidating, the work that I needed to do was now being accounted for. Talk about having an accountability coach when accountability was always something really hard for me to do. I always had a hard time committing to myself up until I graduated in 2021 from school. And so like I just was like, wow, that feels really good. I think I can do this. And now it's just like such a different headspace because I felt so low and so defeated. And almost a year later, I don't feel that anymore. I don't feel so defeated. I feel challenged, but I don't feel defeated. So anyways, that's just kind of like a mindset shift there. But meeting Mel was absolutely pivotal for our growth this year. So just as like a reminder for the rest of the story, the rest of this 2024 year, know that she was always there for us. She was always our anchor. Whenever we would face a challenge, she was right there with solutions. And she never did the work for us, but she was like, this is what you got to do. You know, it like got her brain going, and she's like, this is all right. You got to take the reins and like go do the actions and be responsible for yourself. And so she was just a huge support, huge anchor in our lives at this whole year, just during the whole thing. So she was so kind enough to actually let Josh sit in on a lot of our sessions together and help us through, because what we were going through was quite a bit. So anyways, that's just part of the story there, a very big part. And I want to just wrap around so we get to the point where Josh can speak, but I feel like this is also just really important to mention. So in February, you know, I'm about almost a month working with Mel at this point. And one of my homework assignment at the time was to write my boss a letter, you know, talking about, hey, with that bonus, you know, let's end the season with a great year. I was still planning on working for the campground at this point. And just trying to end things on a good note. This is what I can do for you, but please provide that bonus. And this is what I can do, And he took that very horribly. So much so we had our meeting at the Coeur d'Alene Casino. Thankfully, I'm so thankful, because he decided to go berserk on me and just yell so big. And he's a pretty big dude, and he's just like yelling at me with his arms super wide like this, and just like just so mad. And it was so intense that security, and I'm so thankful I knew the security guard, he was like, "Hey Taylor, can you come with me?" And I was like, "Yes." And I'm like heated, like, because this man is just yelling at me, and I'm just like bubbling, like I'm getting angry, because I'm like, how dare you for being this way when I am trying to help you not lose your campground, because he was in the middle of losing it. And I'm like, what if I'm there and I can help you get through another season? I was being very selfless at this time, but also trying to uphold a boundary of like, hey man, but where's my bonus that you promised in 2022? And he just didn't like it. And turns out, and I didn't know this at the time, that he was literally losing everything. I did not know that. I had created a boundary of like, I don't need to know what your other businesses are up to. I'm like, I don't need to know that. But it turns out it was affecting the campground that I worked for as well. So it just ended up being just this horrible thing where he could no longer pay me my bonus. And instead of being honest and truthful with me, like, hey, I'm going to lose everything, instead he just decides to rip me a new one because I deserved it, is what he said. He said that I deserved it because I had the best job in North Idaho. He said that I had the best schedule and that I basically just didn't really deserve that. And he paid me too good for what I had and whatever else. And I was like, okay, man, I'm out of here. But I'm so thankful for the security guards for pulling me aside, because from their perspective, they were like, that's really bad. That's really bad. It looks scary. Are you okay? And I was just like, in that moment, very much heated and just thinking, wow, yes, I'm okay, because now I got a breather in. But it was a really good reflecting moment for me, because I'm like, this is not healthy. This is not good. I'm done. I quit. And so I was like, you know what? I told the security guard, I can handle the rest, but if you could just kind of hang around, that would make me feel really good. And he was like, yep, you got it. We'll stick around. So I was like, okay. So I went back to the table that we were sitting at, and he's calmed down now. I don't even know if the other security guard talked to him. I don't know, because I went around the corner, so I could no longer see him at that point. And I just was like, well, what can we do? And in my head, I quit. And so I wanted to hear what he had to say. And he was just like, write what you need and I'll make it happen. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right. Like, you would have given me what I deserved long ago when it was agreed upon. And what I learned in that is, like, he had always given me my bonuses without any documentation, whatever, no contracts and whatnot. But this time I didn't think it was any different. I didn't think I needed to write one out, because he had always provided the bonuses, but not this time. And so that was a really big lesson, is like, if you're dealing with money, you write up contracts. And so anyways, he's just like, you write it. And I was just like, okay, I'll do that. And the meeting was cut short, I do air quotes. His meetings would take literally 3 to 4 to 5, 6 hours. That's how much time he would take. And I would get nothing done. He would never answer any of my questions. It was always about his other businesses. So that was the norm. So anyways, our short 1 hour meeting, I leave and I come home and Josh is like, oh, that's not good, because it was short. And I'm like upset, and I'm like, hey, babe, I quit. We need to go get all of our stuff from the campground because we still had some stuff there. And so then I quit that evening after we got all of our stuff from the campground. And he proceeded to tell me how disappointed he was in for my growth and blah, 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 blah. He sent me a very lengthy text message saying how disappointed he was in my decision to quit. And then he sent another one begging me to come back and whatever else. And I was like, I'm done. I'm not going to play this game. So that was in February. The end of February, I want to say like the 25th or something like that is when I quit. And I was just like, nope, I'm done with this. And I have Mel to thank for all of this, because like, if I didn't have the courage to like talk to him and address these things in this manner, this wouldn't have happened. And I would still be working for a narcissistic man and not living in my purpose, not working for myself, being capable in learning and expanding like I am today, like Josh and I are today. So anyways, that was really big and really long-winded to describe like how bad it was for me and in my working environment, and how I was literally, my time was abused, how I was talked to was not great. There was good times, and I'll admit that. There was a lot of good times. Like he taught me a lot of things, and I value that. When things were like better, I would tell him like, thank you so much. Like I had no idea, and just being in a really thankful spot and doing a lot of reflecting, like we're talking about in this podcast. I still really thank him for what he has taught me in all of this. And I just feel like it would be easy for people to hold grudges so much so, like, and maybe talk badly. I barely talk about the situation at all. Like, I had to move on. I stopped looking at the social media. I had to for my own sanity, because it would trigger me. There's a lot of triggers there, and there still are some triggers there that I have to work through. And but I am thankful for the whole experience, even if it was like very narcissistic and abusive and all of that. I learned a lot. So yeah, it also made me realize that money's not everything. So there's that too. So I lost my income, and then I can let Josh speak now because it's his turn.
Well, basically, I've just been, as Taylor's going through all that, I was just working at that marketing agency in the monotony of no purpose. And so Taylor's coach, Mel, had, I think I mentioned earlier, we were planning on quitting my marketing job and starting our own business, and that happened quicker than we thought. We're probably in about March now or so. Yeah. And so Taylor quits. I separate from my job around similar time. So our income goes from about $7,000 a month roughly to $0 a month.
Yay!
Just like
$0.
So that sucked. That was obviously really stressful, especially because we had to pay Taylor's coach. And like Taylor mentioned, all our bills, etc., mortgage, which were all on the line. But we decided to keep Taylor's coach and keep moving forward. She helped us start like our LLC. So we started that for Echo Health. Which we rebranded from the Holistic Ape. So there was rebranding happening. That was a win. We've been trying to come up with a name for that, for rebranding, for such a long time. we finally settled on Echo Health. That was a win.
And I think that's such a sweet story, too, about how we got Echo Health. But you can finish this story, but I don't want to forget it.
Oh. Okay. Well, tell us, because I don't know what you're talking about.
We were thinking about baby names.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, so we were thinking about baby names. That's how we came up. It was like, oh, Echo is kind of a cool name. And
he thought it was a cool name.
Well, I thought it was a cool name.
And I was like, I don't really like that for a baby girl name.
I was like, oh, well, how about a business name?
And I was like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. That's cool.
Yeah. So, yeah.
There's that.
Interesting story there. But, so, yeah. Shit, I don't know. I guess.
Yeah, we wrote our notes down just in case.
Yeah, so I'm grinding now, trying to start up our new media business, trying to rebrand Echo Health, coming up with logos and colors and building 2 new websites, trying to come up with frameworks and, Google My Business and lots of building of foundations that had been in the thought process for a while.
In the mix of all of that, like still working one-to-ones into the schedule.
Yeah, we were still in our networking group, and yeah, that took a ton of time. We had joined it in November, and yeah, they encourage you to meet one-on-one with people to build relationships, and we did that quite a bit. I think I had actually logged 52 one-to-ones in the app, which I think we did more, but I didn't always log them. And a one-to-one typically will go a minimum of 1 hour because you're learning their story. You're just learning about each other, basically.
And that was the point of them. Get to know each other, get to know each other's businesses, and then how to refer business to each other.
Yeah.
That's the point of it.
So there's about 52 hours at least in the whole year we were in that networking group.
Minimum.
That's minimum, yeah, absolute minimum.
Some went 2 hours because it was just really great conversation and, really great, like Josh said in the beginning, like great people. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, just trying to network, build relationships, grind it out, building these new businesses, and yeah, that's kind of what I was doing.
Yeah. I think what it was scary too when like not knowing how we would survive.
Well,
because
Mel was very optimistic for her. She's like, you guys better get ready. The business is going to grow fast. And which was great for our confidence moving forward. But I think that high optimism maybe was too much.
Too much?
Well, it was building an expectation of like, yeah, your business is going to grow really fast. I mean, it didn't, even though we were going hard.
Yeah, I think we were doing a lot with zero, like very, very little. Like
yeah, it did grow, but steadily. However, like I said, it was great for our confidence moving forward to keep pushing and building.
Yeah.
But I think both of us understand to build a business, it takes time.
Which she also reminded us about as well.
Yeah.
But everything was moving so fast. Like we were making decisions like literally so fast in this stage because like I was doing some other work like alongside like Josh making all of our assets and whatnot and working on like the LLC and like I had to get those all kind of taken care of and whatnot, and then him putting our name out there so that people know where to go. There's also so much time that I feel like was lost, and I think at the time we didn't know what it was. like what was not working, you know?
Right.
It was like, this time we were putting in so much effort, but why is there no return? Why is there no return? You know? And I think it was just being in that high stress state, losing a lot of time. Like, we were going into town for one-to-ones and not really having a steady workflow day, because we were literally just spending so much time networking.
I think our schedule revolved around networking, to be honest.
It did. And we thought that was going to be so helpful for us, but it just wasn't.
It just wasn't, yeah.
Even though we were like trying to get clients and whatnot, it just was like, okay, we are not putting our energy in this. And at the time, like, we just really didn't know. We were like just hustling, and it just wasn't working for us. And so anyway, so that was a very interesting stage, because it was like the growth, trying to work on some foundational work and whatnot.
Yeah, learning what's working, what's not. And, you know, I was trying to learn how to do like cold calling. I was making free videos. I think I did like 5 free videos or something, maybe 6.
Yeah.
And I was cold walking into businesses, and it just resulted in nothing. I was like, dude, I remember literally DMing people on Instagram too. Hey, I'd love to make you a free video, no strings attached. You just have to send me your product, obviously, because I don't have it. And people would literally just not reply, or they would just say no. And I'm like, how do you not want a free video?
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, like, come on,
I'm
people.
like, if you like the video, take it and run. You don't have to hire us to continue. But I just thought, you know, these are the things you learn going into business. Not everyone wants your services, even if you offer it for free.
Because it's not a value to them at that time.
Yeah, and I thought that was okay. I thought that was a tactic that would be like, oh yeah, I'll just do a lot of free videos for people, show people what we can do, and hopefully that results in something.
Yeah.
And it just didn't. So networking wasn't working. Making free videos, cold calling, cold walking in, none of it was working. And I was like, what the fudge do we have to do? Like, what the heck?
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was rough.
It was a pretty like defeating time for us, because I wanted to back up actually. So shortly after, so you're doing all of this stuff, like after quitting, my coach Mel was like, okay, you need to get on unemployment. And she was like, they're gonna fight you on it because you technically quit, and that's going to help you financially until you can like get on your feet. And I'm like, okay. And then Josh lost his job, and so it was just like reaffirming, okay, Josh, you have to get on unemployment now. And since he was let go, it was easy for him to get his unemployment.
Yeah, unemployment was very helpful.
It was super, super helpful. And I had never done it before. And I felt like I was abusing a system. I never wanted to be in a position where I took money from the government. And I never wanted to rely on people. I only ever wanted to rely on myself and Josh for our income needs. It was really hard for me to ask for money. I never asked money from my mom or family members. It was just a thing. It was kind of like a personal boundary of like, I don't want to ever ask people for money, ever. And even in a time of need. And I just was like, I had such a hard time doing that. And Mel was like, you need to get over yourself. Again, she literally told me everything that I needed to be told to get over myself. Like you're playing it. Yeah, she's like, you're playing small. You have so much, to offer to people and blah 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 blah. So much. And then we get to this point and I'm just like, I don't want to do it. And she's like, you got to do it. I got unemployment. I had to fight for mine. Like I said, we had to go back and forth. Like even the owner, my boss at the campground, like he had to be contacted, of course. Like, was this a rightful quitting? Is she just trying to get unemployment because she's bitter or whatever? And I eventually was able to get it, which was really nice and super helpful. And I think we were on it for like a month and a half or something.
I don't
maybe
remember.
almost 2 months or something. And then we started making some money, so that was cool.
Yeah,
But then that disqualified me for unemployment. So then it was like, oh, this is real. No more relying on government,
Yeah.
And even though it was like, that's what that money's there for, if things like my position or Josh's position, it's literally what it's made for. So I now tell people, like, hey, if you need that, go get it. Like, it was so helpful in my mental health to know that we still had some money coming in when we were trying to pick ourselves up. And I believe in it. I believe in it. I didn't know if I'd believed in it before, but now I do.
Yeah.
So anyways, that was another thing that we were navigating for both of us, is that unemployment, and super, super helpful. So in this phase of us like losing our jobs and whatever else, what did we do, babe? What did we do to like help our costs? To help our costs, like to help our
costs.
financial situation, because we were living a little bougie, if I'm to be real.
Well, we were spending a lot on going out to eat, to be honest. I mean, so we stopped doing that. We'd go out every now and again still, but we stopped doing that. We, cut our entertainment, tried to cut, just try to cut all the costs that we could to help our situation.
The unnecessary costs.
Yeah.
So what that looked like was streaming services. There we go. Streaming services, we cut all of them. All monthly subscriptions. So we were like buying from Thrive Market. We were buying on Grove a lot. And it was a lot of like fun things. Like some of it was necessary, like household items, but a lot of it was like just fun extra things. So we just cut a lot of those costs. One thing we didn't really cut costs on was our groceries, because we still value groceries a lot, like high quality, organic groceries. So that kept us like pretty high in the, our monthly bills going out. Anyways, we just cut everything that we could and stopped buying clothes. Like Josh said, stop going out to eat. We would, if we like absolutely had to, if we were in town, but we would try to bring food to town when we could, bring snacks and whatever else. But so that was something that we had to do. And I looked at all of our finances, like where do we, like it was all in a spreadsheet. How much money do we need to make? Like what's our bare minimum? And then everything that was extra, we just like cut it. And that was interesting because we never really had to do that because we live pretty comfortably and pretty bougie. I feel like we also pay like out of pocket for Josh's school. And then we were paying like, oh, I wanted to mention this too. Like when I found out that I lost my job, or that I quit essentially, like I lost my income, I wanted to go to Mel and be like, Mel, I can't afford you anymore.
Yeah.
And I wanted to say that. Like Josh and I talked about it. I wanted to say it. And we were like, but we can't afford not to have you. Like she is the difference this year for us. And I just knew in my heart and soul that she needed to stay in our lives. And it was worth paying her every single month to be able to get to where we are. And it was so worth it. So I told her that, and she was just like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're sticking with me. Not only, because it's like finances for her, but she was like, you have so much potential. And just being told that constantly throughout the year of like, you are amazing, you are great, you have a story, you can help so many people. And being called out on my bull crap, and I would mess up, and she'd be like, yeah, you dropped the ball on that, but what did you learn from it? Okay, we're not going to do that again. All right. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And she delivered it in such a way that it was like serious, but she would always mention, I say this with love. And it was so important for me to hear that throughout the year because I never really been pushed in a loving manner. And it was like, oh, I needed that. I needed her in my life so bad. She needed to be in our lives so much. Very wonderful year because of her. That was another thing I wanted to mention is about Mel. How much help she actually was for us. Okay, June. Or no. May. My bad. May. What did we find out in May?
Taylor's pregnant.
I'm pregnant. Yay. So through all of the chaos, we're pregnant. I was so excited. So happy.
Aside from pregnant, I went down to San Diego to school.
Mm-hmm. Oh, which was in April. Yeah.
Right. That's why I'm mentioning it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did some schooling. It was the class I was taking was called Holistic Lifestyle Coaching, level 3, and there are only 3 levels. So I was taking the final level to that class, which felt good. Felt like a good milestone. Like, yes, I'm level 3, and that was, I think, a week or so, and learned a lot of cool stuff in that, and then came back, continued on the grind the best that we could. I tried to do those things as cheap as possible. Like I split everything actually with one of my peers, which was helpful.
Yeah, that was really cool. And mind you guys, like, Josh is still going to school through all of this. Like, and it's all like self-paced type of school, sort of. Like, you still have to like follow like on track and whatnot, but like you have to be able to grind through that. You have to like make the choice to go to school. You don't have anyone holding your hands at this point. So he is still going to school, still joining calls, working with some coaching clients, getting his case study.
Oh, yeah, case study.
He's like creating his case studies, and it has to be with real people, with his real clients.
That's one thing that was also sucking for me, was to enter year 4 of the Chek Institute, which I was entering year 4, because the years start in October, and they go till October the next year. I had a case study that we had driven all the way to Bellevue. We took like a mini vacation. This was in October or November, and the same time we joined BNI. And I was like, yes, dude, I'm like freaking way ahead of the game, getting my case study started. Get like 2 months in, I had everything done. All I had to do was go drive to this client in Bellevue and reassess her, create another exercise stretching program, evaluate her lifestyle and whatnot. And then she's like, I have to cancel. And I was like, no. I was like, can I just come evaluate you? And she's like, yeah, I just have to quit, and I'm sorry. She had some stuff going on, but... So then I was like, okay, no problem. We're still like really early on. No big deal. She had great results regardless. She just had some personal things.
She had to actually fly out of the country, so it almost made visiting her to do the evaluation impossible.
Yeah, but then I get another client, and I get everything done. We're like moving forward, and then boom, he quits. I'm like, dude, no way, come on.
Yeah.
And so I was getting a little worried. I actually remember emailing the school like, bro, I've had 2 clients drop off for like personal reasons. And I was like, I'm going to try to get a third. So I'm like, bear with me. And they were encouraging, of course. Like, yeah, just do what you can. And you have time. You have a little bit of time still. That ended up going well. I finished it. And so what I learned from that is just keep going.
Keep going.
I mean, that's what I've learned from a lot of situations is you just got to keep going, and you just have to keep going.
Just keep going.
If shit happens, you got to keep moving.
Yeah.
I mean, reflect on it, of course. See how you can improve or whatever. Like, oh, why did they quit the program? Oh, okay, she had personal reasons. No, not something I can control. Okay, let's just keep going, get a new client, try to get the case study finished, and move forward.
I feel like you did such a great job at that. Like, you're just like, all right, I got to just move on and, like, forget about that one and not stress and worry about it.
Yeah.
Because it was there for a moment.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I just got to put my energy into getting a new client who would be willing to be my case study as well.
Yeah.
And
which I found that was a great success.
All good.
Yeah.
And so the reason why it was so stressful, because without that case study, you couldn't move on to the next year of school.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Yeah. So like,
I don't know.
Yeah. So that's like, you know, the fear of like, well, I can't continue school if I don't get this done, because it's important, you know, to get done for the advancement in the school.
Yeah.
And so that was obviously really important to Josh and like, and me too, because like I want to support his goals and his dreams, to be able to do that. And, so school, Josh is doing school during this whole time, this whole year.
Yeah. And
in October, give me a high five here, because you completed year 4.
Yep. That was a big win this year.
That was a huge win. And I'm super proud of you for doing that.
Yeah, thanks.
Because we've had a heck of a year, and you still did it. You pushed through.
We're keeping it on going. Keeping it going.
Yes. So, anyways, that was a little bit more background.
Just the spring,
And then, so in June, like we said, we found out that, May, found out that we were pregnant, and we were super excited. But then in June, I technically was like pregnant in April, but found out in May, and then June is when I had my miscarriage, my pregnancy loss. Trying to like reframe that whole thought process into something that feels more real, honest, and what it is, instead of being so like medical terminology, miscarriage. And so anyways, my early pregnancy loss happened in about mid-June, and that was like devastating and horrible, and we were just going through, like, my doctor is my primary care, and she was absolutely horrible through that whole situation. So
yeah, that doctor sucked.
It was so bad. Like, she had so much. When I had mentioned that I am having a midwife, she proceeded to tell me how scary it was for her to see patients have a midwife. And I'm like, why would you put that fear in someone who's been pregnant for, I don't know, 6 weeks now, and how it's so scary for you to have seen that?
Yeah, we definitely learned about how to choose a doctor.
Yeah, you want to make sure you choose a doctor. It's still hard.
I mean, you never know with doctors. But, yeah.
It stresses me out. Like, I try to be super optimistic about going to see doctors and whatnot. I was so excited to see her. I heard nothing but good things, and how she used to work in OB, and that she was like one of the best doctors out here. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. But when it came down to it, she was absolutely horrible. She just turned out that she couldn't keep her mouth shut about her views on midwifery. And she was like, well, you need to make sure this, you need to make sure that. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. And she was like, well, you need to get this vaccine, you need to do this, you need to do this testing. And like, in a way that wasn't delivered
It was more
nice.
Demanding.
It was demanding, and on her point of view. There was never like collaborating with me of like, well, what do you want? What's your story? What kind of birthing? Where do you want to give birth? Where, there was none of that. It was you need to do this, you need to do that, you need to make sure you're a midwife because they're scary. They blah, 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 blah. Like, she just had all these negative things to say about it. And I was just like, this is bad. And so then that was before my miscarriage.
Yeah.
My pregnancy loss. And then when I started bleeding, I was talking to my midwife, and she was like, okay, so, you know, like, it's not too bad. We're still early.
Spotting.
It was spotting.
Yeah.
It wasn't anything too crazy. I had no cramping. And it was concerning. Like, I felt embarrassed a little bit because I was like, can I send you pictures of, like, my toilet paper? I'm like, is this normal? I can't tell, like, what's normal or not. And part of me, I think I was, like, scared for what was to come, but I didn't want to think about it in that way. But I was just like, I need help. I need someone to talk to. So my midwife was wonderful, and she was like, okay, we'll do some testing. And, you know, so she was, like, very calm about it. We'll just get some testing on your HCG levels, because I had done testing already. And then I started bleeding a lot more. And I remember going into, like, the urgent care at my primary care office, and the lady wasn't my doctor, and she was just like, hey, okay, what's going on? You know, like, it started out fine, and I'm telling her, like, okay, like, I'm bleeding, and it's kind of concerning because it seems like it's getting to be more at this point. And she was like, okay. I show her a picture, and she was like, that's nothing. And I was like, really? I was like, but it's getting more, you know? And she was just like, that's nothing. It's normal. It's normal to bleed and spot and whatever else. So I left, and I was just like, okay. So I get home. And this is like 10 minutes later. I get home, I go to the bathroom, and I start having, like, really bright red blood. And then I texted that to my midwife, and she was like, oh no. She was like, can you go back to your primary and see if they can prescribe your progesterone? And so I called them up, and I was like, hey, like, I am having, like, bright red blood now. And it is, like, scary and concerning. And they were just like, nope, we don't do that.
Yeah, they're against helping, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they were like, well, why doesn't your midwife prescribe it? Like, just, like, being super snooty over the phone. Yeah. And I was like, because she doesn't. I'm like, she's not that type of midwife. She doesn't work at a hospital. She doesn't have access to, like, a pharmacy. I'm like, what the heck?
Well, that's why we have you, our primary care freaking doctor.
Yeah, I'm like, she can send you something, you know, requesting it or whatever. And they were just like, no, but why can't she do it? And no, we don't do that. And so they did get me, like, an emergency ultrasound to just, like, check on everything. Because at this point I hadn't had an ultrasound yet. And I was like 7 weeks, 2 or 3 days. I think it was 3 days, 7 weeks, 3 days. And so I was like, oh my gosh, this is really scary. And so I'm, like, frustrated with them over the phone. And they were just like, yeah, we don't do that. And I'm just like, all right, screw you guys. And so they told me, you know, you can go up to the ultrasound place in Spokane. And they were like, they'll probably call you, and you can probably head up there here soon, like that day. So I was like, okay. So we drive halfway to Spokane, and I'm still, like, not getting a call. And they were like, they should call you in, like, less than an hour. So I'm like, okay. Like, almost 2 hours go by. And so I call them, and they're like, oh yeah, we can't get you in until tomorrow morning at 8. And I was like, oh my God. So we had to wait.
You had to drive back home.
Yeah, drive back home, and then wait, and then we go get our ultrasound done. And you know, the ultrasound tech, they can't really tell you anything, what they see, like what's going on. And, like, I'm still bleeding. Like, there's lots of blood at this point, like a period. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And still no cramping. Like, I'm not cramping at all, which is what made them not concerned whatsoever. But I'm like, this doesn't feel like an appropriate amount of blood to be bleeding at this state. And So anyways, we leave the ultrasound tech place and we go and visit my midwife, and she draws the blood and she's gonna get some results within like a day or two from that. And that evening around like 4 o'clock or something, the clinic calls me with the results from the ultrasound. They're like, "Can you come in?" And I just like knew. And like I already kind of knew at this point.
It's like, just tell me.
Yeah, and like I already kind of knew at this point, just based on
another point, when we got to the ultrasound, the doctors did not even tell the imaging company that Taylor was pregnant. So she gets there and they're like, "Wait, what? You're pregnant?" It's like, man, these doctors truly don't care.
Yeah, because the ultrasound text, she's like, "So, what are you here for? Like, abdominal pain? Like, what are we looking for?" And I was like, "I'm pregnant." And she was like, "You're pregnant?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm like 7.5 weeks." And she was like, let me go check on this because your paperwork does not say you're pregnant. Yeah. And I was like, are you kidding me?
That's important because it's a referral from the doctor.
Yes, about my pregnancy. Like, I was just like, what the heck? So just complete mismanagement of the entire situation with both doctors. There were 2 doctors, my primary and then
her boss or something.
Somebody, no, it wasn't her boss. It was a colleague who I had just seen on a walk-in basis at that point.
Yeah.
Because at the time, like my primary was just like always on vacation. And anyways, so we're just here in this situation. We go back to the clinic and they're telling me like, "Hey, like we're so sorry, like there was no heartbeats on the ultrasound, like it does look like it is a miscarriage." And I was just like, kind of shocked, not really crying at this point, just like mad and frustrated and just like, "All right, well, get me out of here. Like, I want to go home now." And, they kind of told me, well, like, your baby can pass naturally, like, so just let us know, like, how you feel. We'll do some more testing on your HCG levels in like a week or something. And another crazy thing about this is like, I knew the imaging would go to my best friend. She's the radiologist at the clinic, and like they all go to her first. So she, my best friend, who had no idea what was going on, gets this information like firsthand, and she was like, "What the F? This is my best friend." And so she actually comes out and she just gives me the biggest hug, and she's just like crying, and I'm just like trying not to cry because I'm just like, I want to get home. I want to go home and deal with this, there. But I was so thankful for her love and support at that time, and she was just like hopeful for me because baby was just like measuring small, and they're like, "Well, maybe you're not as far along as you think, so maybe there's some hope there." That's what they were hoping for me anyways. And I was like, "Well, no, baby's gone. Like, I kind of know it." And so that was unfortunate. And so then that night is when my body went through and like completed the process, and it's very painful. And that whole situation was entirely eye-opening as far as like my menstrual health. Like, it was crazy. I thought I had gotten my menstrual health to a pretty good space, and I did. But what my periods used to be like was a miscarriage. Like, that process of going through the contractions, your body's expelling like what was your baby, and the formings of the placenta and whatever else, all the tissue. Like, that is literally how excruciating my periods used to be on a monthly basis. And I was like, holy crap, this is crazy. So I've been trying to tell my doctors for years that my periods were so painful. I would pass out and from the pain, because it was just my normal. They were just like, "No, you're young, you're healthy, blah, 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 blah." But no, that's not normal. if your periods are that painful, that's not normal. So I had a real big wake-up call about how bad it was. And now I have something to like compare it to. Like my periods were very equivalent to the feeling of a miscarriage. And if you've ever gone through one, like it is excruciating, it's painful, it's scary, it's sad. Like it is all of those things. And it's just heartbreaking. And so that was our first miscarriage. And then, so that was like mid-June.
Yeah, so Disney World, we went there with my mom, my brother, his wife, and that was pretty fun. We got to go to, actually, you know, I'm trying to remain optimistic in a lot of things. So since Taylor was pregnant, we had this trip planned already before all this shit happened. I was like, well, I guess you'll get to ride roller coasters now.
Yeah. I think he told me that literally like the night I go through the whole like completion of the miscarry, and then the next day, like it's a very sad day, and we're just like cuddling on the couch, and he's just like, well, babe, you get to ride rides now. Like he was trying to say it in just like a very sweet, calm way. And I was just like, yeah, that's true. I was kind of sad that I wasn't going to be able to ride rides. Which is very true, because I love riding rides. Like, I think it's fun. But I wasn't going to be able to do it at this point, so.
Yeah, I think that was a fun time, a much needed vacation.
It was. And we had already planned this.
Yeah, it was already planned before all the crap.
Yeah, before this whole year went crazy. And so we stayed on course and just like decided to go anyways. We thought it would be really good for us mentally.
Yeah, we saw some old friends there.
Yeah.
Got to go to like Universal and all these fun places. And by the way, if you've never been to Disney World, it's much better than Disneyland. And if you do go to Disney World, or not Disney World, Universal, but same story. Universal Orlando is better than Universal Hollywood. Velocicoaster in the Jurassic Park land is so freaking sick. Top 1 roller coasters.
Top 1.
That's like my favorite roller coaster I've ever done.
He will bring it up just randomly, and he's like, man, I really want to ride that.
Yeah, I gotta go ride that again, man. That was so sick.
It was super cool. It was super fun. It was so fast and so smooth and just like super like,
Yeah.
I know if you're not watching this and just listening, but I did a cool like move there. So, yeah.
Anyways, I mean, yeah, we don't have to stick on Disney World.
It was
for
so
very long,
fun though, and so needed in so many different ways. Like it tapped us into like our like young nature, like our child self. So like if you ever do any like healing around like your wounded child parts of you, like just going to these places does that for us. And
yeah, we're theme park fans. I know a lot of people don't like it because it's so busy and concrete and sun and lines. Fuck it, I don't care. It's so fun.
It's fun. We got the fast pass, so it made it worth it.
Yeah, exactly. Always get the fast pass.
So anyways, it was needed and it was fun, but it was also a way of like, I think, managing our situation. So it was very sad and whatnot, but we spent like a week and a half or so before we flew to Florida of, just kind of being sad and grieving and still kind of working through that phase too. But then we go to Disney World, Florida, I'll say Florida, for about a week. And then we come back and on that Sunday and then that Monday, I had my day 1 of consulting a campground, a different campground. I offered my services to help them through like their transition phase, and I did that for 2 months.
Yep, back to work.
Yeah, back to work. Like it just immediately went back to work. And then that Tuesday, I had a retreat with my coach Mel, and with all of her other 365 clients. And it was so awesome and so rejuvenating in that way of like living and like remembering my purpose and whatnot. And so it was super wonderful. But then again, it just on that Wednesday went back to work. And so I'm consulting this campground, and it takes a lot of my time. And again, it was kind of triggering in a lot of ways because it was very similar to the situation as far as like the workload. And that was like a lot, and I wasn't expecting the workload to be so much.
Yeah, it was more of a financial decision.
Yeah, it was. And so it was very helpful, and I did my best there.
We knew it was going to be short term too. It was like,
yes.
hey, we just need your help until we can find another manager. They knew Taylor's expertise and that she was good at what she did. So it was like, okay, perfect. You need help. I need some money. It's a good situation for everyone.
Mutually beneficial. And so, anyways, that was 2 months of doing that. And so at this time, Josh is like doing a lot of work.
I guess this is when I was more doing all these fucking free videos and
at this point.
Back to those comments,
Yeah, because so we're trying to stay like kind of on track, but like some of this stuff, like you need to know why we're doing this versus that and blah 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 blah. But
and we had, I think, a couple like one-off jobs that were helping, and then we had one monthly client for our media business, and then
which was awesome.
And then we had I think one client maybe for Echo Health. So we were steadily moving along,
making some money,
not killing it by any means, but definitely keeping ourselves afloat, which was good.
Sort of. Let me preface that a little bit. We weren't really staying afloat. The only reason we were staying afloat was because of our savings.
Yeah, our savings helped.
That's the only reason why we were staying afloat.
That was our life preserver, keeping us floating.
Yep. And like I mentioned before in the beginning or wherever this is going to be a long podcast. I don't know how long it is, but I just feel like it's important to get it all out there. But that savings account was so critical for us during this phase. And we used just about the majority of it. And that was like so scary for me because we went from, it was probably like about 6 months worth of bills, and that's like everything for us. And we dwindled it down.
Yeah, we had a lot of startup costs for the business too. Being in a media business, you need to have a camera, lenses, microphones, new laptops.
Yeah.
All these things cost a lot of money.
Yeah, so we spent probably well over, $12,000?
Yeah, but we knew, we knew that we had to invest to get ahead, We could have made the easy decision, like, oh, let's just go get different jobs. But we really, Mel, again, was kind of pushing us, like, you guys can do your own business, so...
She's like, you guys are more than capable. You're more than talented.
Yeah, like, you've got skills, so use them. I was like,
why
okay,
not?
Let's do it.
Oh, okay. You believe? I think what she had told us was like, I'll believe, or gosh, what was the saying? It was so good. If you don't have belief in yourself yet, use my belief until you do, or something like that. And I think we had to lean in on that a lot, actually, because, she was just so for us, because we could have gone that easy route and just gotten different jobs and whatnot, working for other people, which is fine, but...
Yeah, I'm not against that. But...
We were just in a space where, we were tired of working for narcissistic people. That was very, even though Josh's transition was, pretty minor, it wasn't, a whole big drama, but it was still the working environment was a very narcissistic, and very emotional, and mine was, very narcissistic, And so, yeah, we were just like, I don't want to work for anybody. But, like, we have both been kind of working for ourselves, like, in a different ways. Like, I was the manager, and so very much capable.
Yeah, you were pretty autonomous in your position.
Yeah, which was super nice.
I was fairly autonomous in mine, in that I had clients that I needed to take care of.
You had to manage them.
So, yeah.
So we have the skills, and Mel reminded us of that weekly, which was so nice and so needed. And so anyways, going back to, what were we talking about right before that? Disney World. So after that, we come back, work 2 months, go by, and I'm no longer working there.
Campground, and then...
And I felt like for me, it was just very, like, eye-opening of, like, okay, I know
Definitely don't want to do campgrounds.
Yeah, because there was an idea thrown out there, like, through the coaching, like, oh, you're really good at this. Like, should we lean into this? Like, the skill? Like, you put together really great teams. Do I want to put together something, for campground owners to be able to manage people really well and know how to hire, which I really believe that I could literally make a book on just hiring specifically for campgrounds, how to hire them, who to look for, what do you need, how to structure it, all that. So it was just very, very in my mind for the year. Like, do I want to lean into that? And I was just like, you know what? I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that at all.
Campgrounds is not in the plan.
I have a love and appreciation for the lifestyle. We have met so many wonderful people through this lifestyle. The people we met in Florida when we went down there, like, it was through the campground. They were work campers, and we just made really great relationships with them. And even this year, like, we still go out and have... we celebrated a Friendsgiving breakfast, like, it was really awesome, like, getting to know all of these wonderful, amazing people at this campground.
Yeah.
And
it was really a great place. It's unfortunate how it ended.
Yeah, it was such a wonderful place. Like, I put my heart and soul into that place, and it made me realize that why can't I put my heart and soul into something, another aspect of my life and our life that's super important to us, and that's our health and our relationship, our home life, our relationships with others. And I had just put so much of my energy into creating something really beautiful at this campground to a person who didn't appreciate it. There was, like, surface level appreciation, but when it came down to it, it was he told me I was only good for business. And that was like, wow. I will never let anybody tell me I'm only good for business when it benefits their pocket and not mine, or not my soul, or not the quality of life that I have. So that was a really big eye-opening thing this year. When I was told that, I was like, nope. Again, putting my foot down. I'm not letting anybody treat me the way he had treated me. So I know I'm good for business. So why can't I be good for our
own business?
And that was a really big mindset shift there. So this is why it's so important to reflect.
I'm like, actually, thanks for the comment. I guess I will go do my own business.
I'm very capable, thank you very much. I'm very good for business. Thank you. There's a lot to be thankful for. So I could have let this whole year, Josh and I both could have let this whole year just, like, ruin our relationship. We could have let it wreak havoc on our mental health. Like, we could have let it done so many things. We could have let our lives crumble. We could have just, like, succumbed to our circumstances. And we were like, nope, we are not doing that, because we are worth it. Because we had learned that we have so much self-worth. And that was through the help of the hard times, but then surrounding ourselves with people who truly believed in us. Mel was one of those people, and I just...
Is.
Yes, is.
Still
Still
currently.
is. She is one of those people who literally will do anything for us to see us grow and to help us succeed, and say nothing but nice, kind words about us. And she has just been one of the most incredible people to have come into our lives, and to remind us that we don't need to play small, and we don't need to pick low-hanging fruit. Why not, expand and grow so much more than that? And we're worth it. We're so worth it. So that has been just incredible.
Yeah, and I always, now that we have our own business and we've worked for people, I'm kind of just like, both are hard. So just choose your hard. Choose whatever you want to do is okay. Just make sure you like what you're doing.
Yeah, it's true. Like, I liked working for people. If I believe in their vision and whatnot, like, yeah. I worked at, or I guess we both worked at Circling Raven. That was fun, golf course days. Like, wow, these people, one, spend a lot of money on, like, golfing and nice gear. And I'm like, that's kind of a nice life, So I was like, ooh, I want that. Like, I want to live nice and drive nice cars and whatnot. So that was, like, my first, like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah, I would always ask people at the golf course, like, what do you guys do? Like, holy shit, how do you have that nice-ass car?
Yeah. So, again, you could also look at that and be like, oh, that's unattainable. I won't ever get there, blah, 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 blah. And then you can look at it as, like, inspiring and, like, man, what do they do? I need to do something like that.
How the hell do I get to that point?
Yeah. And so anyways, I liked working there. And then I actually worked at Starbucks for a couple years. And I liked Starbucks. I know a lot of people can hate on Starbucks, but at the time, they treated their employees, like, really well. They were one of the more higher paying, like, positions at the time. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll take that. It was a part-time position, but it made me happy in a lot of ways. But then start working at the campground, that opportunity came up, and it was like, oh, so making more money than than Starbucks. And it was just like, oh, okay, this is pretty cool, and it's seasonal. Like, the golf course was seasonal. Tend to like these, like, somewhat seasonal positions to, like, change it up. I think that was really cool. And then campground, and then now on to business owners, and we get to control our schedule a bit more,
Yeah, still growing steady. It's going decent, and like I keep saying, we just keep going, keep learning, keep going. And I think, if there's a big lesson in all of this, it's just live and learn and adapt, or recalibrate, or whatever.
So another point, so in July, I'm helping out the campground, and I actually get pregnant in July, and we find out, like, early August that we're pregnant again. And so we got pregnant really fast after our first miscarry, our pregnancy loss.
Yeah, getting pregnant's been the easy part.
So keeping the babies is the hard part.
Seemingly.
And so anyways, like, we're super excited. But then I now have, like, anxiety, like, built up around being pregnant. Not wanting to do too much, not wanting to, like, risk having another pregnancy loss. And I wanted to share early, like, we were so excited, but then a part of me was just, like, a little scared because it was heavy. So even though I'm a very open person and I want to share my story, and I, because it could be helpful to other people, it's also helpful for me to talk about, because if I just like keep it bottled in, like that would make me so sad. It would almost make me lethargic, really. Like, no growth, like no one to listen to. Like, I got to move through that energy, and words are that way. I believe words are very healing, especially if you have a listening ear, a supportive ear. And it was just what I needed. And so I share with people on social media, and maybe not to the full extent, but just a little bit about what I'm feeling like. And so I got some anxiety, and, I'm like, I gotta think about being intentional with this pregnancy, is how I felt. And I'm like, okay, I want to make sure that by the time September and October come around, that I'm not demanding too much of my energy, because I'm like, this is a very critical time. I really want to make sure that baby's growing and she's doing good. And so it kind of happened at like a perfect time too, because I was only helping out with the campground, consulting them for literally 2 months. And I want to say, gosh, what was that? When did we stop? Early? Yeah, so like end of August. Anyway, so like we go months, a few months. And October, like comes around, and I want to say like early October is when we finally decided to announce to people, because I was this close. I was like maybe less than a week away from being in my second trimester. And that was like a really big goal, because I was like, I just got to get past 8 weeks, because I was just shy of 8 weeks for the first pregnancy loss. And I was like, I just want to get past 8 weeks. And then it just kind of slowly turned into like, oh, well, I don't feel the need to like share early, because I shared early the first time, or I guess we both did, around like 6.5 weeks or something. And then about 7 weeks, literally a week later, we lost baby. And so this time I was like, oh, okay, well, what about we wait until, I don't know, 10, 11, and I think the 12th week is when we finally decided to share with the world. And it was not because that was the number, the week that most people share. It was just like, oh, I feel ready now to share. Like that felt good to me. And then 2 weeks later, a week later, I started having some, what I thought was like unusual discharge. Nothing too concerning, no blood or anything, no cramping. But I sent it again to my midwife, and I was just like, what do you think about this? And it was not super concerning, but it was like, well, let's get you some testing done, and let's just make sure that you're okay. Let's get you scheduled for an ultrasound, just to make sure that your cervix is staying closed, because the discharge maybe resembled a little bit of the mucus plug. And if you don't know what that is, it's like what's keeping like your baby in, essentially. And so anyways, I think I go maybe like 5 days or something with this mucus, and it wasn't anything too crazy, no blood again. And it started to increase a little bit. And so my midwife actually got a hold of a high-risk OB in Spokane and was like, hey, like, throughout all of this, like, I have tried to get prescribed progesterone. Like, can somebody please, like, this has been just like, I've been testing low for it, still kind of in the normal range, but just still kind of on the lower side. Like, okay, we just need to like, get progesterone.
Primary care battles were happening during this some more.
Yeah.
So.
And this is what was just so frustrating, because I went to my primary care, and I'm like, can she like send you like, what's it called when you get like a prescription like request? And since our midwife was out at network midwife, they wouldn't take any of her like words, recommendations, whatever, serious, because she wasn't in network. which is what I prefer, which is what we prefer. And so they were just like, nope, I don't do that. And I'm asking my primary care, like, why don't you? Like, do you guys have progesterone here in the pharmacy? And she's like, oh, we do. And I'm like, well, who do you prescribe those to then?
I was like, but you can't have it.
Yeah, and she was like, but I don't do that. I don't prescribe progesterone. And I'm like, well, what if it's needed though? And like, what if you do like testing and whatnot? And she was just like, well, my license, like, she's like, I worked really hard for my license and I don't want to put anything at risk. And I'm like, hey, all I'm trying to do, like my ultrasound, like a week and a half ago, everything looked healthy. I just want it to stay healthy. And if that means progesterone, I would love that.
It's like you guys will prescribe painkillers and all kinds of shit every single freaking day, but you won't prescribe a fucking hormone.
Yeah, it was horrible.
What?
So we're just like
it's
battling.
Gonna hurt your license?
Yeah, and she just kept saying, my license. And I was just like, I don't freaking care about your stupid license. Like, who do I need to talk to like take me seriously, or who would be willing to prescribe me progesterone? Because they do prenatal care up until 30 weeks, and she just wasn't doing it. And she was like, well, I would just refer you out to OB. And I'm like, well, freaking do that then. And so, anyways, super, super frustrating. And so, like, they wouldn't. I went to somebody else in Spokane, and they were like, no, we don't do that either. And I was just like, oh, my God. So, anyways, I'm just, like, trying to get somebody to listen to my needs and my wants and for this pregnancy, because I'm like, I'm tracking low, like, can somebody help me? And they were like, you have to have 3 miscarriages for us to take you seriously, is basically what that's translated to. But what they said was, you have to have 3 miscarriages before we start doing any fertility work. And I'm like, why would I want to go through a 3rd miscarriage? I don't even want to go through a 2nd miscarriage. Like, I want to avoid that situation altogether. And if progesterone can help, yes, by all means. So my midwife, she's like working hard, too, and she works with a high-risk OB in Spokane. And so by the time I got to him, he prescribed the progesterone to me, and I started using it. Those symptoms started to go away, and it was like, yay, this is good. Like, all right, it's calming everything down. And then a week later, I started having like a little bit of spotting. And I was just like, oh no. I was like, oh no, this is not good. And I was just like, I don't know. I don't feel good about this. I was trying to stay calm and like stay very mellow and just like not work so much during this week here. And so I'm still sending pictures to my midwife, and she's just been absolutely great. Okay, do this, like, let's work on this, make sure to stay calm. And anyways, like, the progesterone seemed to be helping like other symptoms, but then the spotting came, and I was just like, what the heck? And so then we were going to, I was going to go see my midwife, get another look at baby, and just make sure my baby was doing okay, and then make sure that my cervix was doing okay. But then before we could even get to that, I went into essentially preterm labor in the middle of the night, and I had no cramps or anything, just some spotting, and it just happened so fast. Like, it was so fast that it happened less than 24 hours, everything. Like, it was just one of the quickest things that I had experienced. Like, the first miscarriage was just kind of like a couple days. Like, this was like fast, super, super fast. I woke up in the middle. I tried to go to bed and not worry, but then like an hour going to bed, like I'm still kind of laying there and trying to sleep. But then I started getting a slight tad bit of cramping, and I was like, oh no. And I was like, okay, well, maybe it's just like some ligament pain kind of happening. And then it got really bad, and Josh is kind of sleeping at this point, and this is about midnight, and I go to the bathroom, and there's a lot more blood, and I was like, oh crap. And I started to get sick and woozy, like I you know, how I called them episodes with my period, like I started to feel that, and I was just like, oh no, I'm getting sick, and I could barely like speak. Again, it happened so fast. The pain came on super, super strong and super hard, and I like crawl to Josh, and I'm like shaking him. I'm like, you need to wake up, and I need help. I'm like, can you get me water? Like, can you get me juice or something? You know, because I was super thirsty and just not feeling good. And so I go to the bathroom, and I just, it all becomes a little foggy because I'm in so much pain. And it's something that I would never wish on anybody because it was just horrible. Because now you're like, I'm in a fear state and I'm losing baby. I didn't want to think about it in that way, but I'm like, I'm in so much pain. This is really scary. And I was like, babe, I need to go to the hospital. And he was like, okay. You know, he was getting me the juice, and I think he got me electrolytes too. And I was like, thank you. So he's taking care of me in that way. And then he was like, do you need the ambulance? And I was like, yes, I need the ambulance. Like, I was just in so much pain. And I had him time my contractions because they were just so, I knew they were contractions. Like, my uterus was like working, and they were pretty consistent. How long do you think they were? Because I don't know this part really.
I don't know. I think they were like 25 or 30 seconds. Mm-hmm. And then off for like a minute, I believe.
Mm-hmm. So
2-to-1 ratio, essentially.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So it was interesting that's like where my mind went. I was like, please keep track of my contractions. And so he calls the ambulance, and they get here, and it felt like it was forever, but it wasn't really that long. And by the time they get me up to the hospital, it was maybe around 1:30 in the morning or something.
Yeah.
And in the ambulance, like, I'm in so much pain. Like, I'm like, I need help. Like, please help me. Like, this is not good. And so they gave me some pain management, and it took the edge off, but it was still really, really hard, really painful. My low back was on fire. Like, my low back probably hurt way more than my uterus contracting. And so we get into the ER, and they are telling me that you're going to get an ultrasound. Okay, cool. And like the ultrasound, oh my gosh, the whole process, like, everyone was great, and they all treated us very kind. They treated us very respectfully. If I needed something, they would give it to me, except for water. I was really like, I need water. I was like, please, my mouth is so dry, I need water. But they wouldn't, just in case I needed to have surgery or whatever. So they don't give water for that. And I finally get into the ultrasound, and Josh got to see baby girl on the ultrasound, and she still had a heartbeat. And, you know, like, we don't know what we're looking at on ultrasounds.
Yeah, I know what a heartbeat looks like, though.
Yeah.
I've seen that before.
But they were looking at my cervix, you know, just to see what's going on with that. Well,
yeah, I asked the ultrasound guy, too, like, oh, what are you seeing there, buddy? And he was just like, oh, can't say anything. I'm like, God, okay.
Yeah, that's their protocol.
Yeah.
And, like, we know that from the first ultrasound that we did in the first pregnancy loss. And so we get out of that room. They bring us back into the emergency room. And I'm so thankful to have, like, had this experience, like, in the emergency room, as, like, weird as that sounds. Like, it was what I needed in that space, in that time. And so we go back in there, and I felt a huge gush of what I thought was blood. And it was not. And I was hopeful that it was blood, because I had done a lot of research on women's stories about their early second trimester bleeding, not late second trimester bleeding, but it was like early, right after like the first trimester. And like they were talking about their experience of like having lots of blood. It turns out it was just like other issues that had nothing to do with their cervix or their baby at all, and it was able to like resolve, but it was very scary for these women. So I'm just like hopeful. I'm like, oh, okay, like what if this is what's happening for me? And I was just like trying to maintain that like hopefulness, like please, 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 that's what it's got to be. And I was hoping that's what it was, so that there was an actual chance for baby to survive. And it was not. It was my water breaking. And I was like, babe, can you look down there? And I'm kind of like in a shock. Like I'm shocked. Like I'm in like the shock phase of like very little emotion and just kind of like going through everything in this manner of like, can you check this? Can you do that? Can you get me the little spongy water? Like it was just very like calm and mellow and just like through the whole thing. And he was like, babe, there's no blood. And like I have my underwear on and there's just like no blood. And I had like a pad on my underwear. It's a lot right now. So I know if you're listening to this and you don't want to, you can skip if you want, but this is the reality of like what a miscarriage can be like. And our pregnancy loss was very fast and very, very scary, very emotional. So anyways, he was like, yeah, there's nothing, no blood, other than just like lots of like fluid. And so and I was like, okay, that's my water breaking, just being really rational about it. Okay, that's my water breaking. And I don't even think I'm saying words at this point. Like, I think neither of us are barely saying any words. Like, we're literally just there and things are just happening. Nurses and doctors and whatnot. And they had the emergency OB on staff, and he had just come in, talked to me, and then left. And then telling me like what the plan was, like we're going to get you to like labor and delivery and whatnot. So they were like in the process of doing what was the check? The cervical check on me. And before they could even do the cervical check, my water broke. And then I sat there for just like a moment longer, and then that's when baby came. And it was, I felt her come out, and I was just like, this, so sad, and like so defeated, so defeated. And I just remember being in this like mindset of like, oh my God, this is really happening. This is real. Again, there's like no words. There's no words that were really communicating. And it was just like, yeah, that's baby down there. And the doctors and Josh is like, I don't even know what he's doing really. Because I'm just like in it. I'm in my body. I'm having all of these like symptoms. My pain was kind of like the managed a little bit, but I'm still like dealing with it. And, I see baby, and I was just like, can I see her? Like, can I see baby? And so I had Josh. I was like, babe, can you get some pictures of her? And so he gets some pictures of her, like shortly after like baby came out of me, like on the bed that I was in. And it was just like, holy crap. And she... my umbilical cord. Like one doctor was like, yeah, we need to make sure that like you're like, for whatever reason, I don't know why they did this. Like I have no idea, but they put a clamp on the umbilical cord. And yeah, so I thought that was really weird. And I was like, gosh, that's uncomfortable and weird and awkward and cold. Like it was very cold on my skin. And so they pull baby away from the umbilical cord, and they have her in like this little box thing. And I was like, can I see her? And so I'm like holding this box with our baby in it, and like she was still alive, and she was still kind of moving. Her eyes were moving, like not her body necessarily, but it was just really sad, because I'm just like, it wasn't her. Like, I just know that there was nothing wrong with her. Like, there was something else going on in my body that just could not sustain her life, because she was still alive. Josh saw her heartbeat on the ultrasound, and she was still moving afterwards. And so it was just so heartbreaking, and I never want anybody to go through that, but it's so common. It happens. Second trimester early pregnancy loss happens, and it is just so unfortunate, because you get so hopeful. I know we were hopeful for this time for our baby to stick, and like go full term, but it just happened so fast. And I don't know if that progesterone would have helped. I'm still waiting on the results of like my placenta, because we sent it off to have it be examined and whatnot, but I don't know the results to that yet. But yeah, it was quite the experience, like delivering our baby in this manner, because it was not what we had anticipated at all. Like, we thought we were in the clear, we thought we were good, and so that was just one of our most devastating things that we had ever experienced. And I thought in the beginning of the year that losing our jobs in the way that we did was scary, but this was like way more than I could have ever imagined. But I'm so thankful to have had Josh by my side, because he is such a calm person. So like when it feels like chaos, like in my body, he has just such a calm demeanor, and he's gotten a system down really well. When I go through episodes or through our early pregnancy loss, he was able to just like take care of me really well, especially like the day after. Like, we were so sleep deprived, like we didn't sleep for almost 24 hours, it seemed like. But it just made all the difference for my mental health being taken care of in this way. So I'm like super thankful for my husband. I'm super sad, but
yeah.
Yeah.
Situation that is pretty tough.
Mm-hmm. And I hold it together like how I am right now, because I've been able to talk about it with like close friends and family, just a few people, and I've had a lot of time to heal. That's one of the blessings of being our own business owners. Like, we got to choose to stay home for a week, cancel all of our meetings.
Yeah, we didn't have to ask our boss, like, hey man, can I take some time off? Went through this thing.
Yeah.
Didn't have to worry about it. That was really great.
Yeah, it was so
That would have
nice.
just added to the stress.
It would have. Like, literally having a whole week to sleep, because my body just had went through a lot. I was able to sleep. I was able to heal. My mom was absolutely amazing, and she cooked us so many meals. Like, it was just so, I was so thankful for her, because my appetite started to come back, because I was very, I had a lot of morning sickness and nauseousness, like, throughout my first trimester, and it was starting to get better into my second trimester. And I had a lot of food aversions, and so my appetite was coming back, but I was so tired, just emotionally drained, tired, sad. I'm like still very sad, but the week after, it was very, it was heavy.
Yeah.
And
I didn't know what the hell she wanted to eat. I would cook so many different things and be like, nope, don't like that. Don't like this, don't like that. I'm like, well, I don't know what the hell you want.
Yeah, I felt so bad, because all I could eat was like fresh fruit. And like, okay, I'm a vegetable eater. Like, I love vegetables. And Josh would cook me vegetables, and I'd be like, ugh, that is disgusting. He would cook me steak. Usually love steak. And I'm like, ugh, that is disgusting. I'm like, I cannot even smell it.
Yeah, honestly, it wasn't a huge stressor, but it was added to the stress during all this other crap. I'm like, I don't know how the freak to take care of you right now.
Yeah, because usually he takes care of me through food. Like, he loves cooking, and like, especially in my luteal phase and my menstrual phase, like, he will cook for me, like, really good, nourishing foods. But when I was pregnant, like, I just, like, most things were just so gross. And one day I could eat it and be like, oh, this is my jam, babe. I think I found what I could eat. And then the next day I was like,
nope.
This is so gross. Nope, get it away from me. Even just walking into our kitchen would gross me out. So I really tried to avoid the kitchen as much as possible. If I opened up the fridge, I would get super sick and I would puke. I have puked in our sink. And Josh was like, why are you puking in the sink? And I'm like, because if I look at the toilet, even though I keep a very nice clean toilet, that would probably make me puke more. So I would puke in the sink, and because the sinks were pretty clean, and that was just how I had to manage. He was like, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
Because toilets are gross, and I don't want my face near where we poop or pee. So yeah, that was pretty stressful. I could tell it was stressful on him because he's just like trying to have patience for me. And he's just like, I don't know how to help you. And I'm just like, can you just cut up some fruit so I can not be in the kitchen? So he would just, fix a bowl of fruit for me. And that's how I managed. Eggs, I could only do scrambled eggs. And any other
fried eggs. Had to be scrambled.
Yeah, I tried fried eggs. And our sourdough bread, I just, couldn't do it anymore. I was just like, that is way too sour.
Yeah, and that had been a regular meal for us. Like, let's have some toast, some sourdough, and some, maybe a fried egg or...
Maybe like a breakfast meat.
Breakfast meat, yeah, something. Pretty standard breakfast.
Yeah.
And then, nope.
Could not have any of it. Like, the only thing I could have bacon. Bacon and sausage was, fine. But again, you don't want to eat a bunch of processed meat like that. So, but I honestly just ate what I could eat, especially protein. I would just be like, okay, if I could eat it, I'm gonna load up on this.
When did the miscarriage happen again?
Roughly? That happened on October 29th.
Just to kind of get back on track.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that was October 29th.
29th, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so let's just backtrack a little. Mm-hmm. Not to get off the story, but...
Yeah.
So, beginning of October, I went to more school for about I think it was 9 days, back to basically San Diego, California, and completed the 4th year of my school, which you guys have probably heard about if you've listened to our podcast before. And so that was really exciting to complete that, another milestone. That was another big win for me. Aside from all the other stuff happening. And my mom and Taylor came out. We stayed in California for a little bit longer, which was fun. Got to experience Venice. There's this calisthenics area on Venice Beach that I've been wanting to check out since forever.
It was super cool.
Multiple years. And so that was fun. That was a fun little getaway.
It was super fun. Being able to be just in another state, a little mini vacation to get away from the norm a little bit. So that was really nice. I
really wanted to go to Six Flags Horror Nights, but Taylor was still pregnant at this point, so I was like,
maybe not.
She's not recommended. Gonna be able to, you don't want to get scared a ton.
Too much stress on the body.
Or ride roller coasters, etc. So we skipped out, but next year. We're talking about how to pivot we're going to freaking Six Flags. I don't care if I go by myself.
Shoot, I might be pregnant again,
Yeah,
so
you
might.
be. Well, I'm still going.
Yeah, you'll have to just invite one of your friends. So.
Because this next year will be the last year for school that I fly down there. So I just like to take advantage of the time. Like, I'm already there, so I might as well just stay an extra day or two and go
Just
have some fun. Yeah. So that's what we've kind of done over the last few years.
Yeah. And it's been super fun. Like, I love going down there and being able to explore after he's done going to school, so he can kind of like decompress a little bit, because that's like a lot of extensive learning going on, and so it's just nice to kind of decompress a little bit and then just celebrate. You know? And that's our version of celebrating, like doing fun things together, and yeah. So that was also very much needed this year.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a backtrack.
Yeah.
But then obviously the miscarriage happened. Then we left our networking group called BNI, which we talked about earlier. And we entered into a new networking group called Ignite, which is smaller, but feels a lot better so far. So
feels really good.
So that was our pivot for that end of things. And I think our pivot for like pregnancy stuff and doctors, we've already switched doctors, made up a whole new plan.
Yep.
And you know, you never know with pregnancy. You know, you can do everything right and something might go wrong still. You just never really know. You can do the best you can, plan for things, etc. I think it's important to let go of expectation, to just do the best you can in the moments you have.
Yeah. I could definitely respect our experience. Like, I just respect that we've gone through something like so horrendous. And like throughout the whole year, like it's been just a challenge, just financially, and people probably think we're like absolutely crazy. Like, okay, so you guys both lost your jobs and you still continued like paying for a coach that was, you know, like pretty high ticket price. Oh, you are still trying to have a baby throughout all of this. And I'm like, yep, that's what we want. And we're kind of just like going through the whole thing. And I feel like this is our journey, and our path to that is just learning more of our grit. We're doing this out of our efforts, surrounding ourselves with great people, finding who we need to have in our network. And what I mean by that is like our network for our pregnancy. Who are our people to go to? Who's our network within our friends? You know, like we have to have like a good supportive system in our friends. Like who in our family is also our network, who is going to be supportive and loving and just for us. Like we have, I know I have dramatically this year. I'm like, who are my people? Who are the people in my life that's going to support us, who's going to love us, who wants nothing but the best for us? And if it's not that, I am okay dropping
letting
that.
them go,
Yeah, letting them go, and not feel bad for it either. Like, it's just okay if things are not working. Even though we put a lot of effort into like relationships and whatnot, and it doesn't seem to work, then it's like, okay, well, why keep trying to fit a square peg into a circle? It's just not going to work, you know? And if you make it that far, like that square peg is going to be so beat up and bruised and like tired and, you know, trying to just over and over again, trying to fit it. And it's not worth it. It's not worth that struggle there. We've already got a lot of things that we're working through. That's our struggle. Like, I'm not going to force relationships when it's just not reciprocated. And so I've learned that this year, like, who are our people? And sometimes you learn that even certain family members aren't your people. And, that's kind of hard for people to hear. And it's just the reality. Family is hard in general, but when it's like not good for you, that's when you got to be real with yourself and just ask, like, is this relationship worth worrying about? Is it worth pursuing? Is it worth, putting a lot of effort into it when it's not good for you or your mental health? And so I feel like we've learned that this year. What did you learn so far?
Well, I just learned how to keep going, I think. I don't know,
Yeah.
that's my kind of tagline this year, just freaking keep pushing, keep moving along, sit in the emotions, experience things, and just keep moving. Because if you stop, that's when, I don't know, I just, intuitively, I just know, like, if I stop, well, that's not going to be good. So, it'd be nice to take like a month off or something, but the kind of like,
realistic.
Yeah, you can't do that necessarily. So, I think I've learned, like you talked about earlier, like our worth. Okay, yeah, we've got skills. I can do that on my own. I don't need a marketing agency.
You don't need to be an employee at a marketing agency.
Yeah, like I can do it, but I do have, like, it's hard. Like, I do have to apply myself. So learning how to just stick with that is new this year, like building a business.
Well, because it's so much more than just the work that you were doing.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Now it's like,
because you were an employee before, and all the other like business stuff was like being taken care of by somebody else. So now it's like, oh, I got to be the one to film, do the work, edit, but also be the one to like do all the back end stuff too.
Yeah,
payment,
the networking, QuickBooks.
Yeah, QuickBooks.
Meeting with
contracts.
tax people. There's just so much more. So,
which we've had a lot of guidance from our coach Coach Mel. She's had like a tremendous effect on that, like just helping guide us into who and what to do and, how to do it and whatnot, providing us guidance on like who to talk to and how to talk to people and own our worth. And I feel like that's been really big for both of us, like just learning how to talk to people in a way that's like mutually beneficial and supportive and feels good to the soul. And
I think as this year ends, I'm still learning, I think, this year how much ass you have to kiss or not kiss, because when you're making your own business and you need money at this point, because we are still growing, it's like, how much do I have to activate the prostitute archetype versus put my foot down and get clients who actually want to work with us for money versus purpose?
Yeah.
Well,
I feel like, okay, so to talk about that just a little bit, this is what we've learned. So Josh is saying, like, who do we got to kiss a butt for to, like, get the business? Well, sometimes, like, we did have one client who's no longer a client with us, pain in the butt. The moment I saw that client, I was like, I don't want him. I was like, I don't want him as a client. He does not fit who we want to work with, but he was a partner of the other person that we love working with. And so anyways, it was like we'll work with this. We'll work with it. And, there's a lot of butt kissing and trying to make it work when in reality, it just was never going to work from their standpoint.
Yeah.
And we did everything that we could to like make this person comfortable and whatever else. But honestly,
you can only do so much.
again, it was kind of like a narcissistic scenario where I'm like, okay, this guy is a freaking jerk, man. If that's how he's treating the people he works with, like, I don't want to work with him.
Yeah.
You know, and so thankfully he saw his way out and everything's fine and good and dandy in that way.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, that was a really big reminder of like, okay, who do we want to work with? So this year technically wasn't a huge money-making year, but what we did accomplish, we replaced one of our incomes this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a huge money-making year, but we were making money.
Yeah, we definitely made some money. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like super proud of that.
Yeah.
You know, and we did that working mostly with good people.
Yeah.
You know, so even if it takes a little bit longer to get those clients that I feel like is more soul-led, whether that be in Blakely Media or Echo Health, I feel like we have like more of a radar to be like, yeah, that's not going to be good for us. So we can say no, even though the money would be nice. It's like, why do that? Why put ourselves in a position where things can just go sideways and icky and not feel good and whatever else? So like we have that choice, and we've just learned so much about who we are and who we want to work with and our values. So like we've gone through our values a lot, and we try to activate on those values and remember them when we work with people. It's so important to know who you want to work with as a business owner, and even as a consumer too. Like you want to make sure that your values are in alignment.
Yeah, like who are you purchasing your stuff through? You
Mm-hmm.
know?
And I think about that.
Vote with your dollar type of thing.
Mm-hmm. Which is why we never deviated from our food. Like we still bought organic, like grass fed. Like that was one of our values. And like I would rather not support Kellogg's and other crappy brands out there that supports just horrible ingredients like food dyes and seed oils and things like that. Like that's not good for anybody. So we want to be able to walk the walk, you know, not just talk the talk.
We definitely learned how to get creative this year as well. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
You know,
did.
financially. I mean, I feel like we had been pretty creative in the past, but this year, you know, you just get more creative. Like maybe since our business is so new, it's not replaced both of our incomes quite yet. So, okay, can I trade some people? Can I I don't know, sell things.
We had a lot of like so we do work with a shoe company, and sometimes we end up with excess shoes, and so we sold some shoes, you know, and that was cool. We sold some furniture, we sold all kinds of things to help us just bring in some revenue. And I remember Gary Vee talking about that. Remember when I used to hate when you watched Gary Vee?
Yeah.
If you guys know Gary Vee, like he is a super intense man. I felt like he was just always yelling at the phone. And I think it was just a trigger because I had worked with a narcissistic man all the time. And he's just like, blah, but he was like scary. Gary Vee comes off as passionate to me now. So there's a difference between someone just being angry and passionate. Sometimes passionate people come off as angry, and that's not the case. So anyways, I now remember Gary Vee's words of like, sell some shit.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, yeah.
If it's
like,
not serving you, you need money, sell some shit.
Yeah.
Don't go homeless over your material things.
Yeah. And so we sold a lot of stuff like that we just don't need. And and that feels really good, actually, to like sell some things, clear out our house, like declutter. Like that's such a big thing. I kind of want to talk about that next podcast.
Maybe another podcast.
Yeah.
Another thing I think I've learned this year is in times of crisis, you learn who are your true supporters.
Oh, yes.
Even when people say like, oh man, I'm so sorry that this happened. Let me know if you need anything. And sometimes that's just words. Mm-hmm. They're just saying words. But you actually learn who are your actual supporters. Mm-hmm. And I think we've learned where to place our energy. Mm-hmm. Probably still learning that a little. Like, you know the concept, but you're learning how to implement it.
Mm-hmm. Navigate through it.
So I think that's something... Yeah, there are lots of lessons, lots of growth this year. Mm-hmm. I do find it interesting that we've started 2 businesses this year, lost 2 jobs, had 2 miscarriages, lots of 2s this year.
I wonder what that means.
I don't know. Who knows?
We'll have to do some more reflecting and figure that out.
I don't know, yeah, it's just something interesting I was thinking about, but that's the reflection part. It's like, what does that mean? Does it mean anything? I don't know.
Yeah.
But, now we're here at the end of our year. Getting ready for Christmas, and, basically now it's time to make new goals, keep moving forward, keep building relationships, keep learning. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty rough year, like Taylor was saying. I mean, we could have easily gone in a very depressive state, which it was a lot of sadness, to be honest. But, you just do all the things that you can, to keep your happiness up the best you can while sitting in the emotions. Yeah. And community is a big part of that. Having a coach is a part of that. Taking supplements, getting good sleep, going outside, still carrying on with the things that make you happy. Go to Disney World.
Yep.
Hawaii, whatever, sunshine place.
Yeah. I like how you mentioned, like, just carrying on with your life. And like Josh said, like, getting your sunshine, going on walks, like, still traveling, like, we could have just said no to all of it. Like, nope, I'm so stressed, can't be doing it. We were stressed, but we still went anyways. And then we had a good time, lowered our stress. That way we were more clear on when we came back on all the decisions that we needed to make. And we talked about like being foggy in one of our latest podcasts. Like, being foggy is really hard to make like good decisions. And what helps us not be so foggy is going on our clarity walks, getting out of our norm, getting out of the funk. Like, it's so easy to just like stay in your home, but even just going on like a quick 10-minute walk can really help ease the mind and make you just feel so much more clear on your decisions. So going back to that intuitiveness, like, you want to do what makes you feel good, and going on those walks, they're powerful. Like, humans were literally made to be outside, to see the sun, to look at the sky, look at nature, look at trees.
Yeah, feel
give
the ground.
Thanks, feel the ground. Like, we're literally made to slow down in that way.
Co-participate in the world.
Yeah, because we are nature. Like, people think we're not nature because we build up walls and we call it a home, but our home is also out in nature. So going on those walks and connecting with nature and connecting to the spirit animals and listening to what type of guidance that they're providing you. And it's beautiful, really, when you slow down and realize that, oh, money's not everything. So this is what I've learned. Money's not everything. Did the world fall apart when we lost our jobs? No, but it felt, really hard and rough, and It was very chaotic there for a moment, but we still have a roof over our head. We still have food. We have family that really helped support us like during this time. And we had the support of Mel and a few other really wonderful people. And just even on an emotional standpoint, like I had my sisters who I talked to regularly, and it was just something that I needed. And I kept my circle pretty small of who I talked to for the most part, but my sisters were actually a really big part of that. And so just knowing who to go to, like Josh was saying, like you find your people, you find your tribe, and it's so important to like figure that out. And when we're outside, I feel like that's the time that we usually figured it out. When we would take Honey on walks this year, like we sometimes would just walk in silence, just thinking whatever we're thinking about, because sometimes words can be too much, and you want words to have sustenance to it. You want it to weigh something. When you say something, you want your words to mean something. Because there's we talked to a lot of people who, like Josh was saying, like, kind of empty words. And you realize that really quickly when you're like going through hardship.
You learn there's a lot of people who just talk.
Mm-hmm. And so that's just another thing that we learned is, okay, well, whose words have weight? Whose words have meaning? Those are the people that I want to be around. And I want people to, feel good around us.
Yeah.
Because I want my word to mean something. I want it to weigh something that feels good to that other person. And when it's not like mutually beneficial, that's when it gets like heavy or like too heavy. Like it's more of a burden.
There's only so much giving that you can do until it's like, okay, this is getting kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's for business and in personal life, and we learned that in both this year. And it's like, oh, okay, so just as like a little fun fact, the menstrual phase, which I actually just ended my period, and so that was pretty emotional in itself because it was my first period after our pregnancy loss, and it could be a little bit more intense, a little bit more rough. Thankfully, mine wasn't too rough. It was just very emotionally rough. And so anyways, your menstrual phase is your winter phase, and we're currently in the winter phase. Well, not technically until December 21st, but it's snowing now. It's kind of more of that wintry feel, but we're moving into that. And what you want to do, especially as a woman, but it's great for both men and women, is go into reflection. Like you want to reflect on your life. You want to go inward, ask yourself, evaluate like your life, like do all of that in this winter phase when it's like natural. So like a bear hibernates, lots of rest, lots of healing happens in that state. Lots of clarity. So bear is a really great animal to like call on into this season of our life because it's winter, it's colder, it's a lot harder to get the sun. So what else is nourishing and healing? So like the moon is very healing. Sleep, so lots of sleep can be very healing to the body when, especially if you've gone through a lot of traumatic things in your life. Sleep tends to be one of the things that people ignore the most, but it's one of the most important. So anyways, little fun fact, that's the phase that we're kind of moving into. So naturally leading into the more reflection stage, introspection. That way when we go into the next season of our life, we're not neglecting any of the areas because we've done the work, we've reflected, and now we can pivot and navigate all the new things.
Yeah. So I think maybe just to get towards the ending of this podcast, a couple action items people can do to also reflect is write down a timeline of your year. Mm-hmm. What were some wins? What were some losses? What were things you enjoyed, didn't enjoy? You can do a podcast and talk about it. Mm-hmm. You can talk about it with anyone, really. You can journal. You can take what's called the wheel of life. See how the balance of your life is today versus a year from now. Mm-hmm. So if you didn't do it last year, you can start it now, and then next year you can do it again and see how that's changed. Mm-hmm. Yeah, lots of things you can do, but the number one thing is you have to actually do it. So mm-hmm. Take some time, put it in your calendar, ask a friend to do it with, I don't know. Come up with some sort of accountability thing. Hire a coach, even if you think you cannot. Yeah. You have any others to add to that?
I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who's helped us on this journey this year. It's been quite the year, and without the people who have really shown their true colors to us in a positive manner of like, we want nothing but the best for you. Like, I appreciate that so much, and I think that was just so eye-opening for me, and I love and appreciate that, and I cannot wait to be in a place of giving of my time, of maybe money one of these days. That's one of the goals, is to be able to give. And I've seen that from a lot of people this year. And not necessarily money, but it was like their time. Like just people spending time with us, talking to us about, maybe their shared experiences. Like that meant so much to me. That was like one of the most eye-opening things, is like, wow, people have stories to tell. Like, and I think that's so beautiful, no matter how like hard or heartbreaking it is. Like people, I feel like people don't realize how healing other people's stories are. And that's what I want to do and continue doing, is sharing our story. And maybe I'll share a little bit more, like maybe more of like an in-depth story about both of our miscarriages and what we're doing to heal from that and grieve from that. And so just all the kindness that people have showed us, people reaching out, was really beautiful. Made me feel not so alone, which was so cool, because I had never talked so much about early pregnancy loss so much in my life. Like I've heard of people going through it and experiencing it, but if you're not around that very much, like it's very blind. Like you just go in there not knowing what it is all about. And so people sharing their stories with me was really helpful. And reading other women's stories online, people I don't even know, like just reading about it, was so helpful, which gave me the courage to even share just a snippet of what we've gone through. So thank you to everyone who's shown us kindness this year. Hasn't gone unnoticed. So
yeah, if you stuck around for this entire podcast, drop a comment to let us know what you thought. Maybe a little of your experience or something. We'd love to hear it. We read all of it.
We want to know what you're proud of.
Yeah, what are you proud of? What's a win for you? Yeah. And if you haven't already, hit the follow or subscribe button and stay tuned for a podcast every single Friday.